make sure it's kosher. Lean on me like Bill Withers until you smell the roses. And if you wanna be a chef, then I say cook it up. And if you wanna be the champ, well I say hook it up. Cause I can never tell you what you can't be. Yes I can, see a failure is something you can't be. Plus, I get you a shuttle if you feel that you need space. The sky's the limit, get you wings for your birthday. Whatever makes you happy, if you like it, then I love it. Turning nothing into something, I'm all in and I ain't bluffing. I'm who you got when the world ain't got your back, man. I pull over when life puts you in the fast lane. I'm in your corner like Bandini, if you tumble, I'd tell you like him. Rumble, young man, rumble, see. Some women go cause I ain't make them happiest. But who am I to impede on somebody's happiness? I guess I learned a lot by going with the flow of things. You fight the current like salmon, we die and go insane. That's why I stay up in my lane, just be a lyricist. And yes, I'm multifaceted, but not omnipotent. And what I do know is we all gon' have a path to take. And I won't be the one that's standing in somebody's way. There ain't no perfect life or perfect way to get success. But there's a perfect way to take the time to be yourself. And you gon' find it when you find it, ain't no rushing that. Too many get running this rat race, how many gon' just relax? And life ain't just about money, Jesus ain't die rich. Neither did Martin Luther Gandhi or Malcolm X. And one say life gon' constantly change, so don't get stuck in one space, you won't be open for things.
What's happening? It's been a minute. Okay, somebody else. Okay, so we're gonna get into it about this topic. I don't know how I'm gonna say this nicely. I'm working on it. I'm really working on it. So we basically gonna get into what happened to Pan-Africanism, why it's died, in my opinion, right? Because at the end of the day, and I talked about it years ago, it's a one-way street. And what it looks like is because everybody else is going through something, and sometimes I could say it's not even people going through something now. It's also this aspect of how you have generations of, let's just say, first, second generation Africans or Caribbeans, or even people from the UK that are black, black people rather that are black, who they're dealing with America, and now they wanna, let's just say, unite while we're having this delineation thing. And is it too late to unite? I would say no. But it's too late to act like we're not going to delineate. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's too late for. It's too late that we're not going to say I'm this and you're that. That's what's that's what happened to Pan-Africanism. It's like the idea that we're all one got killed, and for a few reasons. I mean, people like to talk about. People like to say, black people here are divisive or whatever, right? And I'm not buying it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not buying it at all. But what I will say is this. What winds up happening is the divisiveness that people like to talk about is usually us, let's just say black folks or FBA, that's what we're going to use, we're being divisive because we're saying we're a different group when everybody else was always saying that they're a different group. And it's not necessarily, it's not even a different group. It's just they were repping their nationality. And when you outside of America and you come to America and you want to represent your nationality, that's fine. That's dope. You know, you know, I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna get on it, fam. You know, I I got you. So what ends up happening is you had this situation where you got people who like, it's no nice way to say what I'm about to say. Like, who you rep their ethnicity or nationality with respect, and there are people who rep their ethnicity or their nationality with disrespect. And I think people ran into to more disrespect than they wanted to admit because we've been separate. That's a true statement. The separate thing has been a true statement. The reason I say the separate thing has been a true statement is because in my lifetime, you know, I didn't see much of, let's just say, FBAs being accepted in other nationalities and ethnicities, even when we was trying to, say what's up. People didn't blend in together at all. We kind of, we dabbled in each other's culture. We'll say that. But when it came to this idea that, hey, man, you know, when people say, okay, if you're a black American, it's a problem because if you're a black American, you all these negative things. And it's like, oh, okay, now we got a problem. Now we got a problem. You get what I'm saying? Because and one thing it was, we all black, we all come from Africa, and it's cool. Like you're from there, you're from Africa, you're from the Caribbean, you're from here. That's cool. It is what it is. When it became, but once people started saying all the bad things that were black Americans, then it's like, oh no, 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 no. Because we couldn't see ourselves in everybody else's country saying like we couldn't see ourselves going to Jamaica and saying, Jamaicans are bad but we're good, or going to Africa and saying these Africans are bad but we're good. You know what I'm saying? That never really crossed our mind. And we heard it a lot of times. We saw the what do you call that? We saw the distant energy between the groups, and we wasn't really understanding it. And people go, okay, hey man, what about like people called us names, people teased us when we were younger. And I go, okay, that's true, because we all teased each other. I'm still teasing people to this day, you know. But what people didn't say was, and they can say now, is you do realize, black Americans, FBAs did do and did travel. Okay, so a lot of the idea of we went to other countries and it was cool, it was cool. But all of the scamming that went on that goes on in Africa, there was no, hey man, they black and they from America. Let's not do that to them. It was none of that. We were Mzungu, all Mzungu, which Americans, aka white people, we were treated like outsiders. That's that in a general sense. You get what I'm saying? The Caribbean, like one of the Jamaican things is called people Yankees. So you go to, people call you a Yankee because you acting like one of them people that are in America. So did people tease people when they were in the Caribbean and Africa? Yes. If we went to the UK, I'm sure we get teased a little bit. But but our teasing you, we weren't overcharging you in America or making sure you got overcharged in America. You know what I'm saying? We weren't closing doors in your face and closing opportunities in your face because you're a different nationality, or you came from the Caribbean or Africa. We didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't act as though we hated you, or 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 your kids were beneath us, you know, or your culture was beneath. No, that wasn't our thing. So what wound up happening over the years is, man, you know, it started to become an issue, huge issue, because now we got to deal with it. Now we got to deal with the concept of the disrespect, and people weren't rocking with the disrespect. So what did you expect over the years? Like, because know, we would go to Caribbean spots in America, we would go to African spots in America, and you would get that you're unwelcome here vibe from time to time. I'm not gonna say it's every time, but you got that you ain't welcome here vibe. It's like, how y'all do realize where y'all at, right? Like, I don't think you get it. Like, you here acting like I'm unwelcome here. Oh, so now we got this diaspora Jim Crow thing going on, right? So people like, yeah, man, okay, I get it. Okay, we different, cool, but now you put some disrespect on it, okay? Because and there's also this ideology that when people started doing it, we don't know our culture, we don't know this and that and the third. Um, that became an issue. That became a huge issue. Whether you knew it or you didn't know, it became a huge issue because, like, how we don't wait what? Because if you say, okay, we don't know where we're from in Africa, okay, cool. You don't know where we're from in Africa either. You know what I'm saying? It was a double-edged sword. Like, we don't. If you think, like, if you got a bunch of Black Americans, even you know even Caribbeans, and you got them and you stood them up next to a bunch of Africans, I can guarantee you the Africans couldn't tell, from different countries, from all the different countries. The Africans couldn't tell where you from here and you from there, and you from here and you from there, and you from here and you. They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know. They have no idea. You know, and even with West Africa, they wouldn't know. Oh, you from Nigeria? You from Nigeria? You you seem like you Senegalese. You seem like they wouldn't know. You Sudanese? No, they wouldn't know because all of the years here, all of the intermixing here, nobody could figure it out. But people would just claim people. That's what that would be. And we're not feeling that. you know, we don't know our culture in Africa. We don't have a culture in Africa. And that was the other thing about the Pan Africanism, even with the Caribbean part. It didn't make sense to us that uh, so us Black Americans don't have a culture, but Jamaicans have a culture. The Black Cubans have a culture. The Black Puerto Ricans have a culture. You know, the Black people from the people. I don't know what you call people from Saint Kitts. The Haitians have a culture. The Dominicans have a culture. Same island, whatever. You know, um, the people in Belize have a culture. The Brazilians have a culture. It's weird to us. Even when you say somehow blacks in the UK have a culture, even though they are either Jamaican or what do you call that? Jamaican or African. I'm sorry. The people, Trini people have a culture, and it's like, yo, so everybody on this side, uh, on the Western Hemisphere, that's black and is in a predominantly black area, they have a culture, but the people in America don't. Oh, okay, that's what we doing. All right. So it became an issue because Pan Africanism, you know, truth be told, it went all the way to the 90s. Truth be told, it did. It went all the way to the 90s because we was doing a, that was the last you saw when people was wearing the African medallions and you know, repping the motherland, even if they never been. And and it lasted to this day in a sense because you still have some people who play the game where they are Black Americans who have this longing for Africa. I'm going to motherland and be with my people. Yeah, yeah. A lot of them be in fantasy land. The ones that are like that in fantasy land. I remember years ago uh, talking to my aunt, and she went to, I think she went to Ghana. I want to say she went to Ghana. And she was like, "You gonna go to Africa?" And I was like, "Yeah, one day, probably one day, I'm gonna go." And she was like, "Well, why you should go to Ghana?" And I was like, "I'm not going to Ghana." And she's like, "Why?" Because she told me what she did in Ghana. I said, "You think I'm gonna fly from America to Africa and I'm gonna pay for a plane ticket? I'm gonna pay for a hotel. I'm gonna pay for food. I'm gonna pay for, and I'm gonna go pay to the slave castles where they quote unquote sold my ancestors from. I'm gonna pay for that too." It's like I'm not going over there. I'll be no, 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 no. That was the thing about like there's never been a you've had I think too many people who came to America who from time to time you can say, oh man, these people, they I know they sold, they didn't sell their people, but the irony of it is if you talk to some folks from the continent, they'll tell you yeah, I come from a family that did sell black folks from Africa to America. They'll tell you that. I think the only difference with us Black Americans is just uh, I guess we have a public animosity towards that ideology. That, oh, okay, you saw it? Since some of us are here, because let me backtrack, because some people are going to go. Some of us was already here. Yeah, yeah, we know that. Like anybody, I mean, they changed history in school years ago, but they used to basically say that they couldn't justify when I was a kid Native Americans. And what I mean is they were like Native Americans here, they enslaved Native Americans, and then they just went to Africa, and they was like there was no justification. Like, so you went to, how did you know kill and enslave Native Americans and go to war with Native Americans? Just turned around and said, hey, we're going to Africa because one of the things was they already saw black people here. So the only two groups of people that they saw actually thriving here in America were actually what you would consider quote unquote the red Native Americans and the black folks. So that's how you get going to Africa and bringing people back from Africa to here. That's how you get that. But that's part of the equation. But over the years, people talk about the Pan Africanism. They bring up Marcus Garvey. It's like yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like he was one. I don't know if he was the first or he was one of the first. He was early. 'Cause I can't really call him the first because of was it Frederick? I think it was Frederick Douglass that wound up dying in Africa. I want to say it's Frederick Douglass. Like I think he was technically the first when it comes to Pan Africanism. I'm not gonna say being one with just trying to go back and relate. Um, But you got to give Marcus Garvey props. I'm not going. I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people. I'm looking up. I'm looking this up. So give me a second. I want to be. It says hmm, the Frederick Douglass died. And what that was? Returned home. So who was it? Yeah, he died back in D.C. Okay. So I'm guessing it's W.B. Du Bois. It was, thank you, fam. Thank you. I'll be having the moments, man. You know, because I want to remember when. Because he died in '63. Dang, he died in '63. Jeez, wow. So I would say he was one of the pioneers of that. But now let me get back to the topic, man. So now you got this issue now. Like you see that I think the Tariq Nasheed thing, people have gravitated to the trolling and have proved his point numerous times. But without the trolling, it was this unhealthy competition. You remember how this has been happening for a few decades now. The Olympics was kind of where we saw the unhealthy competition because a lot of the times, from a child to a grown man, if you was a Black American, the Olympics is a big thing globally. So the Olympics is a big thing here. So as a kid, we used to watch the Olympics. We really just used to watch all anything with Black people. We didn't care much about everything else. You know what I'm saying? Unless we ain't really paying attention to it unless somebody Black. That's what it was. Track and field became the biggest thing. Um, so we were cheering for everybody Black. It didn't. We were cheering for Black Americans, of course. But if you were Black and you were from somewhere else, we was cool with that. He was like, cool, shit. It ain't no big deal. I'm glad. So if you were Black and you were from Canada, if you're Black from Cuba, Black, any part of the Caribbean, we was like, oh, dope. Black from Africa, we was cool with all that. Cool with all that. But the 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 the, the competitiveness was one thing because people want to beat people, and you got to remember. I would say, you know, given my age, I think it started going downhill with Ben Johnson. And, retroactively looking back because Ben Johnson, and it has nothing to do with Ben Johnson actually. Ben Johnson got busted for steroids in that steroid. So it was like Ben Johnson, destroyed Carl Lewis or whatever, but they was cheap. I was like, okay. And then we fast forward a few years to Donovan Bailey, and Donovan Bailey when he won 100, and he won 100, and then they had the 150 with him and Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson pulled his hamstring. It was a competition, but it was kind of that's when it started getting like, oh, this is about something else because I want to say Ben Johnson and Donovan Bailey are both Jamaican. Now I forget where Ben Johnson went to college, but I know Donovan Bailey went to college at LSU. So it was like he wanted to be Ben Johnson. I mean Michael Johnson. So it was like, yeah, I mean, cool, whatever. You feel like you're the fastest man. It was a competition about the fastest man in the world. So it was cool, but there was this little animosity that was like didn't it really didn't resonate. And I was young and I saw something was off. You know what I mean? So after a while, it started sprouting its head more and more. And if people remember, um, and I think people might not remember this, they should, but a lot of this also started with the Dream Team. And the Dream Team, if people remember, uh, The reason why the Dream Team became important is because that was the first time that the United States said we're gonna put actually our professionals in the Olympics against your professionals. Because in all other countries, um, you was having professionals and that were actual professionals in whatever athletics they were doing. They were freaking in the Olympics. Like professional basketball players. It was older people. A lot of our people were pretty much young. Let's just say people college age. Except for like when it came to racing, people were older. It was from college age to older. The dog is hilarious. So I'm like, let me see something. I think this computer. They got this thing where Ben Johnson said he was racing in 19. He was racing in 1939. I want to say this dude went to college at LSU. I really do, but I don't think he did. I'm trying to find it. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to it. Anyway, so what winds up happening is once the '92 Olympics come, the Dream Team just destroys everybody in the world, and it becomes okay. This is what happens when we put our best in the world against actual. When we actually put our best in the world against your actual best, total domination. So I think that sent ripple effects to the world, like, oh, they really like that. So, and prior to that, even years prior to that, um, when it came to the Jesse Owens thing, it wasn't really Jesse, black America versus Germany, and for black folks, it was black people beating racism in a sense, and I don't know how other groups saw it, but that's how we saw it. So from let's just go from Jesse Owens, prior to Jesse Owens, really, W.B. Du Bois. Some people say Du Bois, some people say Du Bois, whatever. And Frederick Douglass, all the way up to now. There's been a certain kinship that Black Americans were trying to get with the whole Black diaspora. But I think we made a mistake because we didn't know that our success in America and globally came with animosity, also came with animosity from other Black people internationally. We didn't know that. So you wind up in this situation where you got people like, yo, I don't like, I like y'all, but I don't like y'all. You know what I'm saying? Now we had these people with the arguments like, it's fun, but, Bob Marley is better than Michael Jackson. It's like, yeah, Bob Marley is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Is he a global icon? Yes. Leave Michael Jackson out of this. Try somebody else. He ain't the one to try that. You get what I'm saying? Just accept Bob Marley as a freaking global icon. Do not try to put him in the same category as Michael Jackson because it's disrespectful to both of them, honestly. But putting him in a losing situation. And I'm gonna open up the link, man. Hold up. Let me see that. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, but it becomes a problem because, man, what we doing? Like, why are we doing this comparison for this person and that person, this person, that person? Because when we start looking at it, like a lot of the unnecessary competition, we weren't paying attention to. You know what I'm saying? Because we could we could say some things that are true that might hurt people, and we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to do that. Shout out to O'Shea, living in Uganda. the people in Uganda are cool to me. They cool. I'm glad I went there. I'm glad I went there. Uh, my wife went to the Bahamas. I'm glad I went there. And what I would say is sometimes the people in the actual place sometimes come across different than the people here with who have the animosity. You get what I'm saying? I guess because America is a competitive place that it makes what you say idols rivals. That's what I would say it'll do. It'll make idols rivals. And because for us it's like, bro, when I've been to Africa, when I went to Africa, people were cool. When I've been in the Caribbean, people were cool. But here it's a mixed bag. And what I mean by a mixed bag, it's an unnecessary like it's a like I'm better than you. And it's like, wait, are you really trying to compete and see if you're better than me, or is this something you're just saying to yourself to make you feel better, right? And us as Black Americans, we have a strange relationship with that concept when people say, "I'm just fundamentally better than you," and it's like, okay, so do you want to prove it, or are you just talking? And you know, it messed up Pan Africanism. And Tariq was right about, when people were doing negative things, they would hide under being black. And when they do positive things, they hide, they celebrate being whatever they are. We peeped that for a very long time. We just didn't say that. We peeped that for a very long time. It's just, it got more and more blatant, if that makes sense to y'all. It got more and more blatant because basically what started happening, you know, even, Pan Africanism is the same way as our relationship with the Hispanic community. You know, um, it's it's like, okay, we cool, but at the same time, it's like a dislike there. A distrust there. It's like, what's popping? Like, we ain't really do nothing to you. So what's the issue? And as I'm stating in that, I'll put it this way: a lot of this stuff, it seems like people want white validation in America to the point where to get white validation, you gotta automatically disrespect and separate yourself from Black Americans, aka foundational Black Americans. And we saw that years ago, even when people would come here, and white America would make sure people classify themselves as white even when they're not, or or they'll interfere and say, hey man, if you come in here, stay away from them. So we got like a lot of the disrespect out of programming and ignorance and just being wanting to be quote unquote an American and part of the team. And it's like, to be a part of America's team, who's everybody's enemy, quote unquote America is us. And once you make us your, once you decide that we're the enemy, um, and it might sound weird for people to hear this, we don't mind being the bad guy and the villain in America because we know it's not real. It doesn't even bother us for the most part. It's an inconvenience. It messes with our life, but what's up with it? But in all honesty, we don't care. You know, man, appreciate you, fam. That doesn't us being a villain don't really bother us like that. It don't. So here's the crazy part. We can't. We know we live rent free in a lot of people's heads. We just don't care. And I think that's also what happened to what burned the bridge with Pan Africanism because we like, listen, man, if we're gonna be everybody's bad guy, that's cool. Like, all right, but you're gonna focus your life on us so much that you're gonna drive yourself crazy because we ain't thinking about you like that. And a lot of times, people don't realize with a lot of the the, the, the different groups of black people. One of the reasons why black Americans, we're not ignorant to people, we're just indifferent. We're not ignorant to other black people globally, we're just indifferent because if we became everybody's bad guy, it's like, I don't need to know nothing about you. Why do I need? I wanted to get to know you. I liked you. I thought we would have some commonalities, but dang, since I'm your bad guy, I don't need to know. I don't need to. I know enough now to know that you know I can respect you and care about you and respect that our oneness in being black, but I'm gonna respect it from afar because I can't have you too close to me. So it becomes it becomes an issue. Like a lot of times, like now when you hear black people talk, we hear Africans talk about this now about the education part. We don't really say, hey man, we did the education thing already. We did the education thing. We did the innovation thing. We did the political thing. Everything everybody else is doing now, we've already done, and we're still doing, but it's been done for us years ago. And just across the board, when it comes to Black American immigrants of all groups, y'all buying into the American fake dream, and your kids are learning the hard way how it sounds good, but it ain't what you think. Because if you come here from like I grew up with some poverty, you know what I'm saying? Cool. Well, most Black Americans did. Um, we understand the difference of people who come from poverty, and we also understand like because it's a capitalist society, because we're black, racism is there. But there's a different racism in poverty, there's a different racism in systematic oppression, and there's a different racism in just people just being racist. Like we can separate, you know, because um, you're gonna deal with racism in a different way if you grew up poor than if you grew up middle class or upper class. It's gonna be completely different. They can't do the same things. They try to, but they can't do the exact same things. Um, but you're gonna because you're gonna have different points of view of it. When it comes to systematic, you're gonna have different experiences growing up that we all share systematically, from education to to employment to business to um, how can I say this? Going to the grocery store, going to church, just walking down the street. It's gonna be like we're gonna have certain things that just systematic, you know. Right, you know. So now we've gotten that point, and then you got people who just want to be racist. Like we don't really care about people who we like people who are blatantly racist because I'm glad to know how they think. But do we care about them? No, because they waste their whole life being racist. They waste their whole life being racist, and then they die. And then 2 weeks before they die, it's like I don't know why I spent 80 years hating people who didn't even care about what I thought. Oh, it's like, oh, whatever, man. I got time for that. But the systematic part is different because, man, I got an A in that class, but I didn't. I was qualified for that job. I was the best person for the job, but I didn't get hired. Oh, I made all the criteria for that business loan, but I didn't get the loan. Oh, I made all this money, but somehow, I got pulled over one day and they stole my dang money, and I could never get it back. But I had business, but I was trying to do stuff. It's that type of thing, right? So when you see people from other groups come here, they don't necessarily experience that tone. And I'm gonna say something that I should have said a long time ago. Even when it comes to the experience of, man, when I came to America as a black person, these black Americans did me dirty. If I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it never dawned on y'all that let's just say somebody black let's just say you from Africa, right? Because I've seen this. It could have you got offended and disrespected by somebody that's black. It could have been a black American, it could have been a black Caribbean, or it could have been another African. You don't know. Once you get hit, y'all don't know. You know how I know y'all don't know? Because um, how can I say this? See, let me give you a quick story. I had a friend. She's grown. She's moved. I don't know where she's at right now, but she's doing good. I know that. She's from Congo. Okay, she moved to Texas as a child because of the war torn country. So she speaks 5 languages, right? And but I guess Africans couldn't tell she was African because she had been American since she was a child. So she was like, man, she went out to she went out to like a grocery store or something, and she was a beautiful woman. She's beautiful. She's still a beautiful woman. Uh, she went to a store and she got pissed off when she told me the story. And there's some African guys they're talking to each other about her, like she look good, yada yada yada. But basically, like, oh, but she American, so you know what I'm saying. I get with her, but I do, this is it's just this, it's just that, and yeah, because they were disparaging her in their, I don't think it was their native language. I think they were talking about French or something, if I'm not mistaken. And they're talking, and she just listening to him, letting him talk, letting him talk, letting him talk. And then she finishes what she's doing at the register. She turns around and she responds to him in that same language. And they're like, oh. And it's like, now we trying to be cool. Hey, and she's like, nah, I'm out of here. Like, it's that type of thing, right? Because sometimes you don't realize, you don't even recognize your own when you get hit from time to time. Like, and I knew that because when I first moved to Houston, on my first semester in college, sometimes black people, from all across the globe, some of us are just like interchangeable as far as you can't tell after. From some people you can tell, don't get it twisted, and then some people you got to take a double take. And I learned that in college because I didn't know where people were from until they started talking. Some people are like, oh yeah, they ain't from here. The other people, I'm like, when I heard their voice, I was like, oh, okay, nice to know. That's cool. And that separation, I learned it first here in Houston. I first learned it here because when I was on the college campus, I used to have that thing where I used to talk to people of all different backgrounds, and that's when I first found out about the tribalism part. That's when I first found out. It's weird because in Chicago, I think I don't think I know the first Jamaican I ever met was white, and people was like, and we was in Chicago like, what? He's Jamaican? I don't think he's Jamaican. He white. And that was like 1990. I want to say because I was in grade school. It was like a seventh, eighth grade. The first Jamaican I ever met was white, and I was like, so it was like, yeah, white people are whites and Asians. That's how we learned it. And I remember one of my homeboys liked her, and he started to talk to her in grade school. And they went over to her house to eat dinner, and they had like curry goat or something. He was like, man, they eating goat, man. I don't know what to do. I like her, but I don't like her enough to eat goat. So it was an experience, right? And that experience is a whole other thing too about what happened to Pan Africanism, because part of it is also you know uh, I think a lot of us extended ourselves to learn about other people, but we didn't get the same thing from other people when they're here in the United States. Like we've extended ourselves to learn about a bunch of people's different cultures because I've had friends of pretty much every ethnicity that you can meet in this country. Um, but those friends weren't allowed to participate. I didn't see them. I saw them participate in their group's culture, but I didn't see them participate in ours. and it was like a shunt thing, and I can say that even from a college experience, which made it kind of not make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because you would think if everybody's going to college together, sometimes you interact together, they still would, and it still wouldn't go down like that. And I met some cool people, like yeah, Nigeria, like some homegirls from Congo, uh, Morocco, Senegal, Dominica, that a bunch of Trinity, some Jamaicans. And yeah, I know I'm missing people. Somali, Somalia. I met a lot of people, but I've learned over the years that, hey man, and some of them are trying to protect their quote unquote culture, but some of that is just BS. Some of that is just BS. And I ain't even talking about like the dating aspect of it. I ain't even talking about that. Sometimes basically what happens is, and I hate to say it this way, people make up being offended by something and they make us an enemy for life. And because they make us an enemy for life, it don't go well. And now you got to stay over it. You know, one of my homeboys, he told me he was working, and an African couple came and they were talking to him, and they saw his name, and he was like, "Oh, okay, it's nice." And then it was like, he was like, "So where you from?" And he told him, from Louisiana. And he was like, "Oh, you from America? Like, where's your family from?" He's like, "Yeah, Louisiana." He's like, "Oh, you one of the people who don't know who you are." And he was like, he said, "Man, if I wasn't ever got slapped the shit out these people." I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is what we doing today," you know. And a lot of that, comes from that ideology that where I'm from is better or tougher. Because even the thing about like when people come from other places in the world and they have, they say, more poverty and sometimes war stricken. Um, they thought that we were like soft and stupid, and it was like, bro, don't get your teeth knocked out because part of American culture is like confrontational and aggressive. We don't have as a group, we don't have a problem being confrontational or aggressive, and I think that's the issue with other groups because I've learned over the years that other groups aren't really as confrontational, like face to face confrontational. Like, I'm gonna see you. You know what? I'm on my way to see you. I'm there. Not like that. It was always. I ain't gonna say it was always. It was a lot of sneaky stuff. And because we don't get down like that per se, we only play dirty if you play dirty. If we ain't got, if we ain't playing dirty, we can just go. We gonna run a fair one with no issue. But I think everybody else had an issue with doing stuff the fair way. So, and I gotta say that from here to all the way to the other countries in the Caribbean, and what do you call it, Caribbean and Africa, because what I've learned is um, the disrespect that other people give us. They thought we were just going to accept it, and they have a hard time dealing with that. Like, what you mean I can't disrespect you? It's like, hey man, you can disrespect me in your house when I don't know it, but you ain't gonna disrespect me to my face, and it not be a problem. And a lot of times when we address people's disrespect, they don't know how to take us because now it's like, oh, y'all really about to, like, this could really be an issue. It's like it was already an issue once you decided to disrespect. You demonstrate, I violate. I mean, you violate, I demonstrate. I'm sorry. I had a drink or two. You violate, I demonstrate. So that becomes an issue because every other people aren't accustomed to uh, the consequence, and that sucks because like O'Shea talked about it. Like, hey man, if you do something shady, don't worry, we're gonna be at you. We're gonna get at you. And a lot of people don't really get that. They're like, no, I should be able to go home because you know, we deal with sucker stuff in the community too, where people act like, oh, I can just violate you and nothing's gonna happen. It's like, oh, this fool actually been on the drugs they've been selling. Like, nothing gonna happen. Oh, okay, I'm gonna see you though. You know, so the disrespect kind of killed Pan Africanism, and plus all of the scamming. Oh man, all of the scamming. All, using Pan Africanism as a way to panhandle and get money out of people. And, and even when people go to Africa and they buy the land and they get the land, shit, I went back there. Think about it. I flew here. You told me, I don't know myself. I flew here to be a part of you people who's supposed to be my people, and I get here, and then you scam me. Oh, okay. And that was, part of the issue that I was telling you about going a lot. I mean, not going to Ghana. It was like, yo, like I couldn't be one of those people, who you gonna tell me your ancestors sold my ancestors to here. I'm gonna fly back there, pay for my flight, pay for my citizenship, get citizenship, pay for some land from the country that sold me, and get scammed. Oh man, it'd be all bad. You know. Oh man, it'd be all bad. Oh, in my opinion, playing that, uh, there's been a lot of one-sidedness. I gotta say, you know, you know, that became a man. That became an issue. I got you, Dollar. Will I see you, fam? Give me 1 second. You there?
Brother. What's happening, man?
What's happening?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm like listening, trying to understand, man. What is why can't we get this thing together, man? It's like this. I don't know what something's going on. I don't know whether it's some COINTELPRO or something is going on with us in this. Obviously, I am a Pan-African brother. Okay.
Yeah.
From way back, okay, then I have to say from time to time, despite my youthful sounding voice, I am 61 years old. So I go way back to the let's say in the early 80s when the crack thing was going on. I was 18 years old. I was 18 years old in 1982. So that kind of lets you know.
I get it. You were from the part of that era where people was raising their kids and kente cloth and African drum play.
Hold on now. Here's the thing though. I ain't never owned a dashiki or an ankh in my life because the game is in me, not on me.
No. I get that, but I'm just saying you remember that era.
Oh yeah. Oh, some people still in that era. Yeah. I mean, I throw people sometimes. I say, I don't necessarily trust people, especially African Americans, when they show up with a daggone dashiki on and all of that. Well, how the stand goes down, protest too much. If you got to wear it and all, I should be able to discern it by your actions. Some of my most difficult issues in the real world, especially like in corporate kind of world, is with Negroes who show up with the dashikis and all that. Okay, I'm that litigious Negro for real. Okay.
I get you.
I led the union movement, sued my employer, all that. And who was the ones that was against me? All of it? The dashikis. But now, see, I know that they not really Pan-Africans.
The question is, okay, like here would be my question over the years. Because I have the same ideology when it comes to brothers in Islam, too. Like it became a one-sided. Because if anybody knows the same thing, Christianity, we already know how American and perverted that. But when it comes to Islam, brothers go to Islam and then they realize it's a racial dynamic in Islam. After a while, and they go, "Oh, we worship God."
If they get that far,
right, exactly.
Because a lot of Nation of Islam folks, they never made the trip that Malcolm made.
Yeah.
So they still
But
think that they in a black thing. Go ahead.
no, but but they run into other Muslims here, and they
Hmm.
start learning like, oh,
Right.
y'all got animosity with us. Okay, I thought the Quran said that like just like people, the Bible say stuff. These people don't go by. People that do the same thing in the Quran. So I was saying that Pan Africanism has that same thing to it.
Yeah, let me correct something ignorant I just said, because all this is complex. When I said that they, meaning Nation of Islam, thought they were in a black thing, I gotta correct that, because we are dominant in a lot of in Christianity, especially
For sure.
Islam. There are more African or black, whatever you want to call it. There are more black or African people in Islam than there are Arabs in the world. So I have to check myself on that. But the culture, but that uh, religions come from cultures. And when people join a religion, they are indoctrinated with that culture. See, that's what we don't get. That culture is at the top of the pyramid, not religion. The
So
purpose of
let me.
religion is to advance the values of that culture. And cultures come from an ethnic group. So there's an ethnic group that has a culture. And this is for the Africans that like to say African Americans don't have a culture. That's ignorant to the 10th power. There are no human beings that don't have a culture. Now you can criticize our culture, we can criticize your culture and say whether it's functional or dysfunctional, but there are no human beings that don't have that are without a culture. None.
I think like that became a bridge that got burned. Because once people started saying that stuff publicly, it was kind of like a side eye, like, you know what, I'm done.
Now
Because
here's
yeah,
my problem with it. Where we, all right, I'm gonna say, when I say we in this sense, I'm talking about my generation and older. We did a poor job of we sold out. And let's just say what it is. We When the Cosby Show came on, again, this was in the 80s. I told you I was 18. People protested, black people protested and said that it was unreal. Black people don't live that way. So this black middle class that people say if you're 40 and under that you were born into, that was a product of
tell
all the
me, I can't hear you now.
I said that was a product of all the black folks becoming mayors and taking over in a lot of these cities, especially like L.A. Y'all had Bradley, Chicago had black men. We had Marion Barry in D.C., and that opened up the doors to the good government job. And black folks got into the middle class, and we spoke our Cosby into existence. What's that word, Kevin Samuel don't like? Manifested. Okay, we manifested that. But when the show came out, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. And the more money we got, the less quote conscious woke uh, protest, inspired we were. We became we started wanting to hold on to that job and not want to make no waves, and that's really kind of set us up for where we are right now.
It was, well, you know what? Okay, because I'm
So
like,
I don't blame for the younger generation for not being out in the streets and protesting. I blame my generation for not passing on to them to let them know that you were born into a resistance movement that has been going on for a very long time, and you have an obligation to continue to move the ball forward. But my generation, we argued within our generation about what are you telling your kids? And my generation was saying, well, we don't want to tell them the truth because we don't want them to be angry and hating white people. So that's when all that post-racial bull crap started coming out. People saying we post-racial.
see, hold up. I need to pause on that one right there. A lot of times, because I'm like 15, 16 years younger than you,
Okay.
I saw how I saw the dynamic of your generation when they were people who were on the front of the movement and people behind the scenes of the movement. And I realized some of the things they were saying. Some people were just being activists because they didn't want to work. and they tried to hide, and that's how the activism came and became artistic and free spirited behavior. But it was always other people who was actually doing more work behind the scenes and doing heavy lifting and actually having to get things done that people weren't talking about. And the racial part of it, from regular black and white issues to, you know, when you talking about the people talking about like, yo, the race doesn't necessarily exist like it does, or we're past that. That was the people who got comfortable, and those are the people who claim to be activists. They got comfortable. Everybody else who was dealing in the day-to-day real world, they was like they wasn't trying to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, your criticism of the activist, there's some truth to it, but it's like you got in that time, the economics were very different. In the '70s, basically, we had, I guess you could, white people had shame. They're shameless now, so there was a lot of money and a lot of interest coming out of the '60s to fix the situation. So there was money for community-based organizations that would try to get people to graduate and stuff like that. And so a lot of people would get in nonprofit or form a nonprofit to get at this money. And there was lots of money out there to do that. So some of those people, activists, were actually making money and some were not. And some of those activists became your mayors and politicians because they had to get it out the mud. They had that community connection, and they turned that community connection into political power and votes. So it's a mismatch. There was some, yes, but for the most part, I would say it's kind of an unfair thing because you still have to look at the generation from the 60s to what we created, but the 80s to the 90s as success. See, it's kind of hard for somebody that's like born into prosperity to imagine that it was far worse. you know.
But that's the thing about Pan-Africanism. You find people who look at America as prosperity in itself, and it's like, nah, it's not.
On a relative scale of the world, yeah, it is.
No. I get what you're saying on a relative scale. What I'm saying is people come here and actually look at it as, oh man, everybody has an opportunity. It's like, no.
Right, they learn that.
No.
You go 2 years down the road, they get that. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, I was raised in D.C. So
I lived there for a time.
Went to Howard, and where I met a lot of Africans, African students, and they were on that. They were on that BS. And so what I learned at that time, I'm sitting there. I'm friends with some of them because some of them was cool, and we hanging out smoking weed, cutting class, and we 18 and 22, doing what 18 and 22-year-olds do. And I find out later, some of these Africans I'm up here smoking weed and hanging out with, they're like a damn prince.
Right.
Okay. And they came over with certain, like class division is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And I think African Americans, we have a problem with that. And we have a problem with it because we see ourselves, even when you take Africans out the picture, we see everybody as equal. We ain't all equal. Okay.
You know what I learned?
Our ego gets bruised with that, and we have kind of like animosity against classes that have more, because we got to remember we have a class of black folks in America that were not slaves.
That ain't a big class.
It's big enough. A lot of that Boule class, a lot of them were not slaves.
But the Boule ain't that big.
It's big enough.
The talented 10th is bigger than the Boule.
It's big enough.
You know,
And that's the class of blacks. Some of them, it's a small class, you're right. They actually owned other people.
yeah,
Now, some of that was buying people out of slavery.
Exactly.
And so it's a
Exactly.
mismatch. So we got to be careful with this stuff. But the point I'm making is we have a problem with class. We live in this myth that everybody's equal, and they're not. And so when I was at Howard, what I saw was some of these Africans, they had some of these some of this arrogance that's commonly described by ADOS FBA, okay? And it's real, but these people had maids and drivers and, you know, nannies. They are not equal. See, we see them because they black and we black, we think we all the same. No, they come from the top of their society.
Not here though.
Huh?
Not here though. Like I got friends like that.
I'm saying a large percentage of these Africans. Oh, let me just say when I was encountering them in the 80s, they were coming from the top of their society.
No, I agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I'm saying they're not. They come from the top society there. They don't come from the top society here.
Right. When they get here, when they arrived here, they had that arrogant, superior attitude. Right. Now, again, I'm meeting them at Howard, where they in the classroom getting bested by African Americans, ADOS FBA. So they saw that, wait a minute, I'm really no smarter than them. These Africans are not winning everything. They're not valedictorian all the time. And so they saw, wait a minute, there's a class hierarchy here in America too. That's what they don't know until they come here. And then when they come here and stay a couple of years, they see that they have to compete with our A and B students.
No, they knew that. Like everybody.
Nah, they think they arrogant and think they better. And then when they come here, they find out, nah, they got to compete. And there are people here, there's time enough for them. They don't know that until they get here, because America, part of the racism of America is to promote transmit propaganda about us to the world. So that this country, the white man in this country, is controlling the media that the world sees about us.
But okay, here's part of the issue with even that part of the Pan-Africanism. You said it, and you saw it that way, and I said it, and I saw it this way, and we both went to HBCUs. Okay. You wouldn't come all the way from there to be going to HBCU if you really thought it was all fair and equal out here. We know better.
Explain that.
You wouldn't come from most of the people. Like, I know for a fact that there were black people from Africa and the Caribbean, and they were even Hispanics that took that went to HBCUs because they didn't want to deal with the racism in America. They knew that. So they were there because they knew how it was already set up. They went to the schools, they got the education, they knew I can go to these schools and I can graduate and I can get a degree and I can become a doctor or a lawyer out of these black institutions, because most black people who were engineers, doctors, lawyers, and all that, they went to HBCUs, most of them.
And I guess the only thing I would take issue with in what you just said is that when you presented it as they went there because they didn't want to deal with the racism. Also, they went there because it's a superior education.
What? No, it wasn't.
Yes, shit. Have you been watching? Let me just speak of it. At least the ones that appear regularly in U.S. News and World Reports, top colleges. Mm-hmm. Okay, Howard is regularly in there.
Oh no, I get what you're saying now.
Okay, Spelman is regularly. Yeah. That's an HBCU. Howard, I'm not saying all of them are in there, but when you start talking about the Spelman, Howard, Hampton, Morehouse, those they are regularly in there.
No. I was saying it the other way. I was saying people over fantasize or fantasize about PWIs. like their education was that much better.
Oh,
than
correct. Okay,
HBCU.
yeah, we agree. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
bullshit. It's bullshit. Do you and see they and again back to the propaganda issue about what America highlights the negative information to basically we've been niggerized. Okay, that's America. This class and race hierarchy, this vertical hierarchy that exists in this country must have a bottom. We are the designated bottom.
Yeah, but
If there is no bottom, they have to create it. We are the created bottom.
The problem with us being the bottom is people don't know how can I say this? People don't know how to mentally deal with the fact that you keep losing to the bottom.
Then we keep what?
Other people who are not at the bottom have a hard time reconciling with the fact that they keep losing to the bottom. It doesn't compute. You get what I'm saying? Like, just because you believe that somebody's beneath you, that doesn't mean somebody's beneath you. And you keep losing the people that you think are beneath you, you start really having an issue.
But their identity of who they are is based on the idea that we're the bottom.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like just because you like it's kind of I remember being in class and I had to tell this to people who of other groups, and I have to sometimes I have to tell people of other groups when they hear. I was like, listen, you might feel you're smart, you might feel your kid's smart, but if you put your black kid, if you're not Black American, you don't know this. If you put your black kid in an environment where ain't a lot of black people, you think if I'm all around a bunch of black people, my kid gonna be dumb. But if you got a smart kid around a bunch of non-black people, they gonna make sure they're dumb because they're gonna always sabotage them. But they don't get that. They're like, oh, that's not gonna happen. I'm like, okay, watch. Watch what happens. Watch, they're gonna get tired of going to those schools because they don't want to participate in something's up over here. Other groups have to learn it the hard way.
I saw a stat years ago that black folks that graduate from HBCUs, when they go to postgraduate, when they go to get a master's or doctorate, their percentage of succeeding at that level is higher than blacks who go to PWIs.
It's a sad part about it's a stat that's the other way too.
Say what?
It's a stat that goes the opposite direction of that too.
I want to see that.
Yeah, because they used to always say that about when I would go to Southern, they would always mess with the lawyers. They're like, the people couldn't pass the bar because they went to Southern. It's like, no, that's not what happened. But
I see the opposite again at Howard. White folks go to Howard Business School and Howard Dental.
Right, but that's the same thing in the South, though.
They go because it's excellent. Mm-hmm. And then I also saw on a stat another time. I think both these stats they were either in U.S. News and World Report or Newsweek, one of those periodicals like that, and they talked about the percent. There was a greater percentage. Like basically Spelman was overrepresented in placing women in CEO positions.
Hold up, let me pivot to where I was going initially, because I was talking about what happened to Pan-Africanism.
Mm-hmm. What's wrong with it? It's never been better.
I'm gonna pivot back to that because it's the thing. This is the question, because like you said, you're older than I am in this. What was the issue that I saw is that even at the HBCUs, we will participate in other people's culture, they wouldn't participate in ours. So I'm saying that's one of the reasons that Pan-Africanism, died down, because we learned like, oh, you even here in the HBCU, and it's y'all over there and us over here.
Okay. Well, let me say this. I want to say I don't want to. I accept your representation of the reality you experienced. I think that we have to remind ourselves as Black Americans in this big country that there are many regional Black American cultures
For
and
sure.
Black American realities. I
For
looked
sure.
up the demographics of Blacks in California. It's 5%.
Mhm.
And so when I'm talking to my DMV Black folks, I tell them we have to exempt ourselves from most conversations when other Black folks are talking about their Black American experience, because our experience is extremely aberrant. We grew up with a 70% Black population for most of our life. Anybody my age, they always had a Black mayor, Black police chief, Black fire chief, Black anchors on TV, Black teachers, Black principals, Black head of the school board. The teachers was something crazy happened in America, they would stop the class. When you go to class the next day, school the next day, they would take the first 5 minutes and they would explain to you. The Black teachers in those Black schools in the DC public school system would break it down and translate it for that Black mind. That's not happening in white environments, and that ain't happening in places where Black people are only 5% of the population.
Well,
But
they
when you look
5% now.
okay, but it was never like DC. It was called Chocolate City. DC was
No, but
what Atlanta became.
no, it was two chocolate cities, because New Orleans was a chocolate city too. Atlanta was something. It was the mecca. I remember all of that, and I remember even when I was in college, because I went to two HBCUs. I remember
What were the two?
Southern and Texas Southern.
Okay.
So I lived in the DMV before. I lived in Chicago. That's what I represent, really, Chicago. Well, I was born in New Orleans, so
Okay.
I know for a fact that yes, we all have different cultures. If you can the South culture, the East Coast culture, the Midwest culture,
Yeah,
the
so there's
West
some
Coast culture.
differences. There's
It's
some
completely
regional,
different.
yeah,
It's
there's some
but
regional differences. The
but the
economics
thing
is different.
yeah, but the thing about it was we all actually participated in each other's culture. We didn't freeze anybody out and say we hung out. If we hung out with people of all different regions. Did we
Okay, so
gravitate to something?
you mean like the Afro Caribbeans and like that? How that's what you mean when you say participate in each other's cultures? The Africans and the people from the Caribbean. You talking about that?
Right.
Gotcha.
Like we were like we could like I have, it ain't just me, but we have like because I was, and I can say in my case because I grew up in the South, in the Midwest, and a little bit on the East Coast. It wasn't a big deal because most of the people I knew, whether they were in the Midwest in particular, most of their family came from the South. The West Coast, most of their family came from the South. On the East Coast, it was like a mixed bag because it depends on what we call South.
No. Them Negroes is from the South.
No.
Okay?
I know they're from the South, but I'm saying you said in the DMV.
In the DMV, them Negroes think they not in the South. Now I have to remind them where the damn Mason-Dixon line is. I'm like, no, nigga,
like,
you
right
first
there.
Generation DC. Your parents is from the Carolinas and Georgia. That's what
but
it
people
is.
put like the V is South. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
The
And
D
DC
and
is South.
But look, I'm just giving my 2 cents.
The Mason-Dixon line is what in Pennsylvania, okay?
But it becomes but even like part of Pennsylvania is actually the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? Like the west part of Pennsylvania is considered the Midwest. The eastern part is considered the East Coast. So, like I know for a fact we participated. Like we knew it was people were putting each other on. Okay, this was happening in Florida. This is how we get down to Carolina. This is how we get down in Alabama. This is how we get down to St. Louis. This is how we get down to Chicago. This is how we get down to Kansas City. This is how we get down to L.A. This is how we get down in the Bay. We even if we didn't rock with the people from those places, we at least got some of their culture. You get what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
But when it came to Caribbeans and Africans, we would participate in their stuff. Like, we're gonna support y'all, man, because we looked at them as, hey, man, we already know y'all came from a different country, so you already um, not necessarily at a disadvantage, but you ain't got your people here. So if you got an event, we gonna support it because you can't. Your people, you ain't got enough people to support you here. But when it was the other way around, it was like, we can't, we ain't really
I
because
think I think that's hard to discern, man, because I'm from, let me say for me, because they look like us. I mean, by the time they go to school with us.
Yeah.
They go into church with us. Everybody go to the Jamaican joint to get their jerk chicken and chicken roti or whatever. They being,
Now watch
fatty.
this. Pause it right there.
Uh-huh.
We go to their jerk chicken place.
Yeah,
we go to their roti place. They wasn't frequenting our spots.
Right.
Like
what
that.
I was getting ready to say is, because they look like us and they in our culture when they on those college campuses and in school and everything with us. I don't know, how do we know when they in the house? They ain't wearing no flag saying, I'm from another country.
We know.
How do they say, is it even possible for them to exempt themselves from our culture?
We know.
When they're living in a city like DC.
No. Like you gotta, like, people don't, like, sometimes people don't realize, let me back up when I said I had a professor from the Bahamas, and one of the things he was talking about, he said, man, even I had that issue when I first came here. Now he was a professor when he was my professor in college, but he was like late 40s, early 50s at the time. He said that even when I came here for college, I did it too. I came here, I had my accent. I'm like, I'm not them. I'm, to the point that the black guys were like, okay, I'm not black. I'm different. We're gonna let you go be different. And then he's like, America let me know that I was black. And then when I tried to go back to the brothers, they was like, nah, bro, you remember, you different. Stay different. And when I got that from my college professor in what was that? That was actually like 2000. You know what I'm saying? And you fast forward now, I've seen how when people talk about the tribalism of Africa, I've seen how it has affected other Africans with Africans here. You get what I'm saying? I've seen that. I've seen even the island thing where, the islands, like, and we look, and I said earlier, a lot of us, you can't tell until we start speaking or until people do certain things. You go, oh, you from, because people can't tell that I was born in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. But if the second line music come on, they go, wait a minute. That, like, don't know, you got to be from New Orleans to do that. You know what I'm saying? If people didn't, like, I grew up in Chicago. When people start stepping, they time out, like, hold up. Or when people say certain things or do certain things, or if I see people in public, I can see it on them, like, hey, you from da-da-da-da-da, ain't you? And they be like, how you, like, come on now. Like, like, you can see that. Like I know the difference between somebody from the South and the Midwest because I grew up in the Midwest. You get what I'm saying? Right. I don't even need to hear your tone. I don't need the accent. I can tell, like, you're from the Midwest. You either from Chicago, Kansas City, Detroit, somewhere in Ohio, or you maybe Pittsburgh or something, or somewhere else in Michigan. But I can tell it. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
The East Coast, I can't do that because the East Coast is weird. New Yorkers let you know they're New Yorkers, but
we're on the East Coast, we can tell.
Yeah, because y'all dress different.
Yeah, well, we sound different. It's like I was raised in DC, but I was born in New York. And so my parents were separated in New York, and how black folks do. One kid gets shipped off to live somewhere else. I was raised aunt in DC, but my mother and father were separated, but both lived in New York. So I spent summers in New York, and so both places would joke on me about my accent. Okay, I didn't sound like DC folks to DC folk, but New York folks say I sound DC.
Yeah, because DC folks and Baltimore folks and
Don't
Virginia
sound the
folks don't
same
sound the
either.
same at all. At
Correct.
all.
And for people listening, DC and Baltimore is only 45 minutes away. And you would think they 10
Two different
hours
worlds.
away. Yeah, two different worlds. Baltimore is a completely different culture.
Look, I tell people, I say, hey
It's
man,
own thing.
hey man, you bet. Like Baltimore, I said DC comes off as East Coast. Baltimore comes off as Midwest. Like I remember.
I don't know what Baltimore, their own damn world. I mean, I'll say this: the area, DC and Baltimore, have a healthy respect for both areas. We neither side want to deal with each other's crazy.
No, look, man,
you ain't never heard no feud between Baltimore and DC.
I lived in DC. I lived in Maryland. I ain't lived in DC. No, my dad lived in DC. But
same difference. I mean, if you were in Prince, what county in Maryland?
Where I was, you know what? At one time I was in DC, and at one time I was in Silver Spring.
That's close enough.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it was
Silver Spring is close enough.
Because I remember the townhomes with the half addresses.
Right. If you live in Silver Spring, it ain't shit in Silver Spring to keep you there. You always coming into DC, even when you live in Silver Spring.
No, I'm saying like because at one time it was them half addresses townhomes in DC. Right. Another time it was apartment in Silver Spring. But but I remember.
Yeah, I've lived in Silver Spring too before.
The thing about Baltimore was, no, I'm saying I was there. I was literally there when EU blew up nationally. When Doug Williams was the quarterback, and when Marion Barry got into the trouble, I was there then. You know what I'm saying? So.
I'm sorry, say that again. You were there when what happened?
I was there when EU was blowing up. Okay. When Doug Williams was the quarterback and they won the Super Bowl. Okay. And when Marion Barry got into that trouble, I was there then.
Okay.
You know, and people don't really. It was a heck of a time back then.
So you were there. You actually attended a go-go.
Yeah.
Okay, because you know it ain't the same lifting to the record and going to the go-go to get the contact high. It's a whole different experience.
I know, like if people who ain't from there or don't be around there, they don't realize that one part is go-go, the other part is house, and they don't rock with each other. Yeah. You say you DC. You so you know about EU and Trouble Funk and all that. I had one of the white bucket hats with the cut with the orange and yellow and red and letters.
All right, but to steer it back to your point, what you're talking about, I don't really see. I guess I don't know. I don't see that as a problem. I don't have the expectation that everybody's gonna let me say this. I am opposed to assimilation. Let me just say that. Whether it's white folks or black folks, I promote pluralism. Okay? You be who you are, and we're gonna work it out and come up with a community standard. I'm not for the we gotta meld into whiteness. That's what assimilation is. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm for pluralism. He can wear his yarmulke, and everybody can wear whatever their cultural style is, and we'll come up with a community standard which really, truthfully reflects the community, as opposed to the white standard where the black man got to cut his beard, but somebody from another ethnic group can have hair down to their chest.
But
so therefore I don't have the expectation that some Africans or Caribbean are going to completely abandon their culture. Like we had the reggae clubs in DC. When I felt like dealing with reggae, I went to the reggae club. But I don't have no problem with them having their club and doing their thing and being separate enough to maintain their culture, but knowing my culture enough where they can be functional and communicate.
That was the thing. That was part of what I was saying earlier. That was part of the issue, because what I learned over the years was sometimes when we would go into these environments that were, let's just say, African and Caribbean, they would, instead of being welcoming, they would try to make you uncomfortable. And I'd be like, hey man, like, I understand this is an African spot or Caribbean spot, but understand you still in America, G. Like,
That's right.
you might want to chill that out. Like, because it's just like when you would go to like a Chinese place or Korean store. You knew the place you go in there. Oh, y'all don't want us here, but y'all want everybody else here. Okay, cool. I'm out. Like, it was that same thing, and I'm like, hey, y'all need to chill out with that, because there's gonna come a point where we go, okay, fine. You don't want us here, we're not gonna be here.
Right. I think that's unavoidable. I don't think no people ever get over that. It's just, you always gonna have some hostile people within any culture that's hostile to others, and it get to be 2:00 in the morning or 3 in the morning. It's time for you to go, or you should have left already. You should have left already.
The hostility wasn't never really the problem. The problem was the response. Like, like, there comes a point, like I said, look, you violate, I demonstrate. There comes a point where, hey man, and you know what? I'm gonna say it this way. I got some homeboys from here, from South or whatever. And one of my good friends was talking about how he was talking to a white guy at like a corporate function, and the white guy was like, "This is why we don't like you black dudes." And he was like, "What you mean?" He said, "Look around. You're really the only black dude here, and you look like you comfortable. You ain't scared of nothing around us." He's like, "Why would I be scared of y'all?" He's like, "That's the problem." He's like, "We don't like y'all because we know, like, if the shoe was on the other foot, we would be very uncomfortable."
That's right.
And he said, and he's like, it ain't a you thing. It's you black men. That's how y'all get down. Like, y'all are always comfortable in environments that we think you should be uncomfortable in. And I say that because when my other, friends that weren't quote unquote black Americans, FBA or whatever, they didn't understand, they had too much respect for white people.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be like, listen, man, don't let them do that. They'd be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, no, I know what I'm talking about. Don't let them do that. And they would, be like, nah, see, that's the problem with you guys. You guys don't get it. And we'd be like, okay, let me explain something to you. It's a reason why they tell y'all that, we're the bottom of the barrel and y'all go with it. But you ain't never seen them actually come up to us and try to actually start nothing, because we will actually do something to them. Y'all are docile because y'all won't respond back to them when they out of pocket. We will.
So these other people you talking black people you talking about, what's like the demographics of where they live?
Where they're from or where they live?
Well, where they are basically punking out the white folk. What are the demographics where they fold like that?
Well, the people I'm talking about that was punking folks, they was from the South of the Midwest. It was like, yo, you're not finna, like, no, mm-hmm. Like you just be. The people I'm talking about that would kind of fold would be from outside of the country.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
And we would try to, we would don't, like, don't let these. It was a thing like, don't let these people bully you. Don't let these people.
So they come ready to buck dance.
Huh?
Oh, you saying they basically come ready to buck dance?
You know what? As I got older, it was one of those things where some people, they wasn't trying to buck dance, but they wasn't trying to, what do you call it? They were walking on eggshells because they didn't want to get kicked out.
Gotcha.
And we were trying to explain to them, we got what you're saying, but you don't understand. Like, there's gonna come a point where you're gonna have to stand up for yourself.
Right.
Because if you don't, it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah, I think black men in America, I think we got a good radar for if a space is comfortable. And if we don't feel comfortable there, we're not likely to stay there.
True.
Because we're not going to want to project that. We don't want them to see that we're not comfortable and maybe think that, we're afraid or whatever. We will more likely just leave.
Yeah, but we've been exposed to, hostile environments in this country on a regular basis.
Right.
So even if we're not comfortable, we actually can, if we gotta be there, it's not gonna be like the worst thing in the world.
Right.
It's the 197th time I've been, at an away game in America. You get what I'm saying? It's like whatever.
Right. So it's like I gotta walk down the street, or my ride ain't coming. I gotta spend this next hour here. I'm kind of trapped, so I'm gonna have to carry myself a certain way for this hour to survive. We know how to do that.
It became one of those, and it was beyond that too. It was some boy, I'm about to be trifling. Let's just say, my dad used to say, sometimes you got to beat people's stereotype to make sure they don't mess with you. We knew how to turn that on and off.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And, even when it came to just regular, intellectual things, it was like, listen, you want this person to know you're smart. He's like, yeah, I want them to know. I was like, listen, they know you're smart. They're just going to keep changing it. That's all they're going to do. The smarter you are, the more they're going to change. So how about you don't keep, you ain't got to prove it 170 times in a row.
Right. But even this dynamic you talking about right here, this is where we African Americans gotta make a better effort to understand the past or the context that other people experience the world. Like, again, we have a presence about us in America. When you think back in the 60s, sidebar, you can't get the 1960s demographics anymore. I used to say on, in various manosphere spaces, I beg black folks, go see the 1960 demographics. Now, when you try to see it, it's an embargo on it. You're not allowed to see it. They don't want you to see it. They don't want the younger generation to see, how small our population was in 1960s,
and how it grew,
and look at the hell we raised and how we transformed this whole country with a single-digit percentage population. We were not 13%, okay? And then also they don't want. This is where we get to the ADOS FBA Pan-African conflict right now. We have no concept, and let me throw the Asians in here too. We don't realize that there was those numbers of those others. We're talking 1 and 2%. Everything in America back when you're in the 50s and the early 60s. Let me just say the 50s, because the 60s demographic would have been the 50s population. It really was black and white. Nobody else was here. It really was black and white. And they don't want you to see those demographics from 1960, because then you'll compare it with the demographics from 1970 and 80, and you'll see the difference. You will see this quote unquote Hispanic population, which was down into 3%, something 2 or 3%, something like that. You see that number start to creep up, and you realize, wait a minute, you can't create a demographic shift like this. Does not happen organically, especially with the black population not tapering off to justify it. Something's going on. So this country played with immigration.
Yeah.
And so in the 60s and 70s, now I was, again, when we get to the 70s, now I'm 10, 12, 13, 15. And so I'm more aware of what's going on. And so we're paying attention in the 70s with all these quote white Europeans. America keeps letting come into America immigrants from these white lands, because they were playing population demographic games. Because of the hell we raised in the 60s, they did not want a large black empowered population. because we, again, in this same period, we were winning elections in these major American cities. So there's some nefarious demographic gains with immigration that happened, that if you see the 60s demographic and as it changed, you're like, how the hell we go from the leading minority group by a long shot, and now they're quote Hispanics past us. Now, a sidebar with the Hispanics, this is what we got. Now, let me go before we get to that, and I'm gonna wrap it up. What our agenda was in the 60s, as not Randall Robinson, yes, Randall Robinson, the brother from Trans-Africa. That's the first Pan-African I knew, and he was a bad brother. That's who made me want to be a Pan-African. He ran an organization called Trans-Africa. Do the wiki on it. And so he was very involved in heightening the profile of Africa. And remember, coming out of the 60s, a lot of these African countries just won their independence in the 60s. Okay, right. So we gotta remember that they only like 50 years, 1 or 2 generations into freedom. Okay. So the buck dancing, I'm gonna tie it to that. You I threw that word out there. That kind of acquiescence to white folks, it's because they're at a different arc in their freedom, and they saw what we were doing in the 60s, and that inspired them. So they had massive respect for us. So fast forward to now, when I hear people saying they don't like us, I'm like, what are you talking about? No, they love us and admire us. Now, the uneducated ones don't know no better. The ones that got that American propaganda took control of their mind don't know no better. But we were lobbying in DC for America to let more Haitians and Dominicans in here, because they kept letting them Cubans and the white Cubans and the white Europeans flooding America with them. And we're like, wait a minute, what's going to happen to we weren't using the word ADOS FBA, but we knew that those people stood to disenfranchise us because these white companies were going to be hiring them over us. And so then the language changed from affirmative action or equal opportunity for blacks, and it starts using that word diversity. And that's when they shifted, and they told us on the jobs, and then they start hiring these diversity officers for the first time. And the diversity officer was more 99.9% a black person. And they told us that diversity did not mean black. It wasn't limited to black. It included women, gays, handicapped, and all kinds of things. And so the pie, and if you read the that EEOC sticker that's required to be in every employment business with, I think, 50 employees or more, and you typically see that poster maybe in the main lobby, where the main elevator is, or it's going to be in the lunchroom, the cafeteria, whatever. They have to put it somewhere everybody see. If you read it, they tell you what the goal of it was. But so somewhere in there is when it started to be competitive, as we got disenfranchised. We ADOS FBA black folks got disenfranchised, but that's not. It wasn't that the Africans coming here, they're not the cause of that. It was white folks the cause of that. No. And we actually wanted them here because we were trying to keep our numbers up, because we saw the impact of white folks bringing in these whites from around the world. Just now in the historical context, remember, that's what happened in what was it, South America, Brazil. They you talking
about Argentina when they had the ethnic cleansing out there?
I'm talking about even all Brazil, all the whole, what's that, South America, all that. They were importing white folks from Europe to Argentina. They thought not just Argentina alone.
No, I know, but Argentina it was the worst case of it.
Yeah. But because they thought that they had a mistaken idea that white was dominant, that they could basically fuck us out of existence. That if they had their government policy was to make the races integrate. because see, this is why when I hear us arguing, saying that they don't even think they're black, we got to understand that the British gave us the definition of black. It's not, there is no national global definition. We've made it one. We're trying to universalize it, but in South America, they were told, the government said that we're going to make everybody mix together, and their thinking was that black would disappear into whiteness.
See,
but white is recessive. Black is forever. They didn't know that. Okay, but in this government, the British took the idea, the position of segregating the races. So when I hear us arguing across continents, trying to say they don't think they're black, well, we need to be mindful that we're using a British concept of this thing.
But see, that's what you just said. I think is part of the issue, because it's not completely a British concept here. See, other groups in the black diaspora, the only one we didn't get in America was Portuguese. Everybody else was here in America. So we got British, yes. We got French, we got Spanish. So when we see these other groups of black people in the diaspora, even though we don't speak French and Spanish in America, I don't think they realize how much we do know about French and Spanish people and their cultures. And their cultures when it comes to black people and race and racism and all that other stuff. So I think people get it misconstrued because they go, oh, I'm from here, you from there. And I'm like, listen, hold up now. I think you forgot or you don't remember, because the Caribbean is British and it's also Spanish.
But the point is, the British, the Spanish, and the French they didn't have a uniform idea of this race construct thing. Okay?
Exactly.
They was building the plane if they were flying it, and so we need to be mindful of that.
No. That's my point.
Right.
We had to deal with all three of those building the plane while they flying it. Other groups don't even to this day don't realize we know more nuances of other groups than they think.
Hold on, back up and help me understand it. When you said we had to deal with that, you mean we ADOS FBA?
Yes.
Explain that. I don't understand that. Because we come up from the British, okay?
No. Depends on where you grew up in America.
Okay, you're right. It depends on what point in time I'm talking. But the British ended up with defeating Spain.
The
Spanish American War.
The British are the East Coast.
When Napoleon sold New Orleans, at that point, the British mindset became the American mindset.
Okay,
and that's the one we use today.
But okay, let me break it down in this way. The British mindset is more East Coast. The French mindset is more middle of the South to the Midwest. The Spanish mindset is actually Southeast and West, because that's how it was. So,
are you saying that those other areas you just described from the Midwest and the South, that the areas that France and Spain controlled, are you saying that the black folks in those regions, those areas, don't have a British American, what later became an American concept of race? You saying they don't have the race concept?
No. We have a British concept, but we also have a French one. Or we have a French and a Spanish one. We have multiple. We don't have, like, the East Coast might be completely British. The South and the Midwest is not.
With respect to the definition of black, tell me what's different about the people who were in the French part of America and the Spanish part of America from the ones that in the British part of America.
The whole concept of the black boule is French. The whole concept. That's a French concept. That comes from the Passé Blanc.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So this idea that we have these mulattoes, these people who are super light. Even a brown paper bag test. All of that comes from the French. When you see the British, it was like you black, that's it. The French, it was like they had the shades thing. You get what I'm saying?
I got you. I got you.
Because
okay, I got you on that.
So when it came to the Spanish part of it was because remember, Spain, not necessarily just Spain, had free territories in America. So it was a difference.
So you saying, let me stay with the French for a second before you go to France. So the red bone thing, that's from France. That's from French, right? Okay. Because we all know about that. Even if you've never been to New Orleans, everybody know about the red bone thing.
But see, you got to remember, the Louisiana Purchase was pretty much New Orleans all the way basically to Illinois and Minnesota. That whole concept went from Louisiana to Minnesota.
That's right. Yeah, the bigger landmass than what we see right now. Right.
So pretty much Illinois, Ohio. Like people don't know to this day, and people don't realize to this day that if you look at the Indiana Hoosier is a black dude. That's what a Hoosier is. It's a black dude. The Indiana University, the same, the one that's in Indiana, Hoosier is a black dude. The whole concept of who founded America, it was a Haitian name. They said no, he wasn't Haitian. He was just he was a black dude with a French name. Because of what? Because the French was all through that area. Like people don't. That's the concept. If you look at what do you think the New Orleans Saints is? What is that? A Florida League? What is that? That's a French thing. That's why the French quarters stayed the French quarters. Well,
okay. So tell me about Spain now. What's different about
the
Spain versus the British idea of black?
You remember, since Spain became a free territory, that's partially where you get the what do you call that? How can I say this? Like when they talk about the Seminole Wars and all of that, and even all the way up to South Carolina, when you talk about the Geechees and all that, that's kind of French and Spanish and black, and that's like a mix of all of that. You get what I'm saying? Because those were the territories that were able to fight.
Okay, but they still, but in terms of, I guess what I'm trying to contrast is, like in South America, their official position, the government's position was that they didn't racialize the people. That's why it's frustrating when we talk to people from that region. They will tell you what their nationality is, and we respond that they crazy. We need to understand. No, that was the government policy to give them that perspective, and not let them. We say we're black. Mm-hmm. That's not universal. That government race is a construct.
Mm-hmm.
And this black thing, every country, let's deal with the big three we talking about. France, the Portuguese, let's throw them in there. Portuguese, France, Spain, and the British, they had, and as you talked about the French, the unique ways the French and Spain are acculturated their slaves.
Hold that thought. I'm not saying, Smitty, the French. I'm saying Florida was a Spanish territory.
Yes, it was.
So part of the Gullah is what? Part of Florida. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
Right. So we kind of cooking. You'll catch up. So what I'm saying, very much in agreement.
No. So just what I'm saying is, people in the South, when they figured out that Florida was a free territory, everything that was close to Florida, people went there from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. People went to Florida, and that even moved up back to South Carolina with the Gullah Geechee. That's what I'm talking about.
But see, a lot of people, we weren't taught in school, at least when I was coming up, we were not taught. We were taught about the Underground Railroad, that the slaves went north trying to get to Canada. We weren't taught also that they escaped south to Florida. That's happened.
Yeah,
that happened.
That was the whole John Horse thing.
You know
what I'm saying? That was the whole John Horse thing. Of going to Florida and all. What I'm getting at is in America, in Black America in particular, if you were talking to a Haitian, they would talk about the French part,
right?
And when they get here, they will run it up to Black Americans, but like, wait a minute, y'all know about the French culture? It's like, yeah, but in Florida, they might not have figured it out, but if they would have went to Louisiana, they would have, oh, okay, we get it now. You know what I'm saying?
I guess what I'm saying is we need to be mindful that this concept of Black comes through a filter of various other white cultures, like the Portuguese, the French, the British, and the Spaniard. And depending on who was your master, which one of them white cultures was your master, you have been given a different psychology about your identity. And so when we today in 2025 talk to a Black person or somebody from another country whose skin is melanated like ours, I hear us saying that they're confused because they don't see it the way we do. And so I'm saying we have to check ourselves and it's basically stop arguing that our master was right.
like watch this. This is what I mean in essence. You talk to Italians, right?
Yeah.
And they'll tell you about pasta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of pasta is part of their culture, but tomato sauce is not really part of Italian culture because tomatoes are actually from Central America. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, how did you got tomatoes from here over there? Mm-hmm. You didn't have tomatoes. You get what I mean? Just like when they were saying people, there are things from Africa, plants from Africa that people in slavery brought from there to here. They weren't indigenous to here. That's like if you go in history, you find out that rice wasn't made in China; it was made in Africa first.
Yes, and I think South America too, I believe. But yeah.
So what I'm getting at is a lot of what will wind up happening over the years in America. All of the quote unquote race mixing and this race is that race and ethnicities and cultures, people didn't realize how much was stolen from different cultures and people took credit for. And so when you get to this country, most people don't like when they say, when people would give us the Black people don't have a culture, you just ain't running to Black people that'll tell you the whole truth because they ain't got time to be arguing with you. Right.
And it's again, there are no humans that do not have a culture. There are no humans that live in isolation. We are pack. I hate saying pack animals, but we're dependent beings. And when we come together, the first thing we do is create some culture.
So watch this.
Culture is how you teach what's the first law? Survival. Okay, you want the species to survive. So your culture has the rules in it, how to survive in the environment that you're in. So I'm talking about the natural environment in one sense, and I'm also talking about the political and economic environment. Your culture has a response to all of the obstacles in all of the environments. And so the African or Black folks over here will have a different culture than the ones over there. One, because it might be cold over there. They might have earthquakes over there. They might have flooding over here. They got mountains over there. And so you got a different culture for every for the various natural terrain and weather patterns and agricultural pattern. Some foods grow in some areas, don't grow in other areas. You got more growing season in Florida and California than you do anywhere else in America. So
but that's
culture is going to be different.
that's literally my point when I'm talking about how it how people don't get it and how it changes and how we have issues, because what people seem not to realize when it comes to Black America, it's like, hey, oh, so you don't get that coastal cities and coastal Black people are different from Midwest Black people because of what? The weather, the food, the things you can do. So people don't put two and two together all the time. They be like, oh, you Black people are this, you Black people. It's like, listen, let me explain it to you. Simply put, like, when I was talking, I talked about, like, sometimes I talk to Africans, they be like, Egusi and gumbo is like, it's not the same, but I get what you're saying. Jollof and jambalaya is like, it's not the same, but I get what you're saying. And then I'll have to explain.
Let me throw this in there real quick. What you just said earlier about plants don't grow in this different soil, come out the same way. It don't come out the same way. So you can bring that seed from another part of the world, because they put the food that the enslaved Africans ate on the slave ship with them. But when you come over here, it ain't gonna come out the same way. It's everything don't grow everywhere.
It ain't even that. It's that, but it's one of these other. It's one of these other things that people seem to skip over. Right?
So the jambalaya the rice dish ain't gonna be the same, because you gonna where we end up. We come here knowing what our ancestors taught us, and we try to make it here, make the dish here, but we got to do it with the vegetables that's close to what we have.
Not that. So here's what I say as a person born in New Orleans. Only when people say that about like gumbo and jambalaya, we'll go, well, okay, so where did dirty rice come from? So where did etouffee come from? So where did the succotash come from? So where did the melatonin come from? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now we where did the croquettes come from? Because since we're gonna go down this path, all what people know about New Orleans is jambalaya and gumbo. If you're from New Orleans, you know good and hell well, melatonin ain't got nothing to do. Like you start talking other terms, they be like, wait, what is that? What is that? How? I was like, you see how you can look at two and say they're similar, but if I give you 10 or 15, you're gonna be stuck. You get what I'm saying? Like same thing.
But when you say similar don't mean the same.
No. They're like when people say okra, right? They got okra in Africa, cool, but they don't make melatonin in Africa.
Right.
See, they really don't. They don't make dirty rice in Africa. You know what I'm saying? They don't make etouffee in Africa.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is not inconsistent with that. People come with what they are, and they gonna mix. They gonna mix with. They meet other people, like we said about the land. There's gonna be other vegetation there. You're gonna create something new.
It's a reason why. It's a reason why when it comes to that, just even that style of cooking, it's the only two places you can think that cook close to that is New Orleans and Charleston, South Carolina and Savannah. 3. It's the only 3. It's only 3. Because in the DMV they do shrimp boils and crab boils all the time. They do crab cakes all the time.
Right.
That's part of the culture.
Right.
But what they don't. But the difference in let's just say Carolina and Savannah is what South Carolina they'll do a hog underground barbecue a hog underground. Right. They'll do that. You know what I'm saying? In Savannah, they got the other stuff. In New Orleans, they got a whole lot of fish. It's oysters, it's trout, it's garfish. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's it's different on the East Coast. Right.
I ain't had no damn crawfish. I ain't had no damn crawfish until I left Louisiana good, but I ain't had it there.
They got crawfish in Africa.
I love it.
So it's like people don't realize, even when we go to the culture of using culture as music, jazz, New Orleans, fine. That's fine.
Y'all listen. Y'all ain't never been in New Orleans before. I've been 2 or 3 times, but go. That's the best eating you ever had in your life.
But look, where did house music come from? You see what I'm saying? Where did house music come from? It was either Chicago.
I would say my guess would be Chicago, but anyway, New York.
Where did rock and roll come from? Where did R&B come from? What soul?
That's black.
People consider soul coming from like Tennessee,
right?
But what people don't realize is every area had a different thing.
Correct.
So,
and what makes it rich? This is where the ADOS thing kind of irks me. ADOS FBA thing irks me because we've been through a lot. When I say when I say we, I'm talking about all people, black people. Now I don't get into we was here first. No, I don't get into all that shit. Okay, if you got black melanated skin, you've been through a lot. Because even just on the Africa part, we come from a whole lot of different tribes or ethnic groups in West Africa, and then we went through the Caribbean to end up here. So it was a good stretch of time before enslaved Africans got here.
Hold on. Just for the record, I had to look it up, Isaac. And it was like house music was invented in Chicago.
Okay.
You know, but you use Frankie Knuckles. But the truth is, house music ain't nothing but disco. Truth.
Say it again. Say that again.
House music ain't nothing but disco.
Thank you for saying that. Always said that because as a DC person, I had to say I hated disco. That's how DC got its name, Chocolate City, because when a lot of the other parts of the country was going disco, DC kept Cameo, Parliament, the Barcades, all them funk bands. We kept them paid because we didn't really go disco like other cities. We had a disco present, but it didn't take over. The funk was hard in DC.
Disco was not created by white folks. Disco was black folks.
Right.
You know, that was just an offshoot of disco is basically an offshoot of R&B.
Right.
That's all it is.
Disco went around the world.
Yeah.
And it came when it did that, and when it basically when it left black people, it got watered down. And that's what killed it.
But
that's why when you say disco right now and people start talking about the hottest names in disco, you're gonna name all the black folks.
It's using that like let me pass.
But I'm a jazz fan myself. I'm a straight ahead jazz guy. But anyway,
Grover Washington all day. Thelonious Monk.
There you go.
Ironically, and people don't realize Thelonious Monk, in my opinion, was the inspiration for Timberland in the 90s.
So you a jazz dude, man? You a jazz head, man?
I'm eclectic when it comes to music.
Okay, all right.
So if you ever listen to Thelonious Monk, you're gonna find out like when you first listen, it's offbeat, on beat. So he's gonna be offbeat and actually do something else that makes the whole thing come together.
Right.
You know, but like I was saying, when it comes to the culture, and people go, "Oh, you black people, y'all got the culture. It's just music and food." It's like, no. The vast majority of ingenuity in America was black people. The vast majority. It's a reason why the White House is still standing, because black people built it. And they go, "Oh, it was slaves." Yeah, and it was free black people that built a lot of these cities too when slavery was over too. That's why some of the architecture is the way it is in certain cities.
But when they say we don't have culture, they mean that, but they don't mean that. And they have a cognitive dissonance. They know the aspects of American culture, which is black culture, that they have been exposed
to. No, they don't.
To.
You know how I know they don't?
No, they know the music, they know the fashion, they know all of it. Because they mimicking it. They've been affected by it.
Because what winds up happening is all the other groups in America have had a historical tendency of saying that our culture is their culture. The Zoot Suits became Hispanic culture. So has lowriding. You get what I'm saying? The rock and roll became white culture. You know, Some of our culinary things became just American culture. You know what I mean? The irony, even they say it now,
That's true, but they know it still came from
martial
us.
arts was actually African culture that was went to Asia, and now it became Asian culture. If we want to do it that way, the Hispanic culture that we know about, the merengue, the bachata, the God damn it,
African culture.
a lot of that was
You still there? I don't hear you, brother. Check your mic connection.
black culture in you can't get around but everybody claims everything else of everybody else.
Right.
So when people come here, then they even when I was talking a minute about disco and house, they became it went from black culture to gay culture to Hispanic and black and gay culture. It's like, nah, that was just black culture. They played it at gay clubs, yes. Gay people like the music, yes, but don't get it twisted. It was just straight people dancing to it at first.
So when I hear somebody like African or some from some other country that say black, they black, or that what we would say black,
right.
and they say we don't have a culture, I just know that I'm listening to somebody that's ignorant. That because all of our artists, from James Brown, all of them, they physically toured in Africa.
For sure.
They took it there so they can see it. Okay.
Okay.
From Muhammad Ali and all of they all quote unquote went home to let them see that this is us.
What became an issue is now saying we don't have a culture. They know about all those other cultures, about culture, music, food, fashion. They know all that stuff. Now to me it's become a low-key diss of intelligence. Like, oh, we can't do anything outside of it. And it's like the vast majority of what you see in America is things we created outside of music, fashion, and language and school. The vast majority of it. The vast majority of things you have in your house wouldn't be in your house if it wasn't for Black Americans.
But that's where we have to know that they got the colonizer education. We gotta know that they've been brain damaged too. We gotta know that. When I say I'm a Pan-African, I'm not saying that we're all united, and it's an aspiration that we can become closer together. It's not saying that we've arrived. I know that there are a lot of ignorant people out there, over there, down in the Caribbean, and here in America. So I've never been around no Pan-Africans that were naive about the reality of the impact of, say, the American education system and media on our mind and theirs, and the impact of Abrahamic religions on our brain as well. I come up from this in the 80s, okay? So I knew, I was told or educated by our great historians and stuff that this is what's happened. This is how you were taught to hate yourself. But we just didn't pass that on to the next generation because we didn't want, or what my peers said, they didn't want you to be angry and hateful.
Look, I was in the 90s, man. We was already angry. What people talking about?
Right. And so I'm like, that's what we were saying. Reality is gonna slap them in the face. They gonna be mad anyway. You might as well tell them the truth.
A lot of see, it is messed up that I gotta say it this way. I was a teenager in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Like I saw even Media Man talk about this reason. I talked about it years ago too. Like, people talk about the quote unquote YNs, and I was like, we was way more aggressive in the 90s than a lot of generations. Like, you got to go back to the damn Great Depression era to find people more aggressive than us in the 90s. And I was telling
everything after the early 80s.
It's a different culture because
Yeah, everything is different from the early to mid 80s up through the 90s. It was nothing. There's nothing in America that compares to that, because that's when y'all had high powered rifle guns and shit. We didn't have that before that.
It wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. I remember, especially like, and I told people this, and I don't know when it stopped, but I know it stopped. There was a point, especially with black men in America, that you could ask the question, when was the first time the cops pulled a gun on you, and how old was you? And everybody had the same damn experience. The good thing about Black America is we grew financially, that every kid had to go, every black male had to go through that, because girls really didn't go through that particular experience. But people didn't realize, it wasn't, we would, in my era, in my age as a young man, we had older men who always wanted issues with us, because either they were older and they just didn't like the younger generation, or they were older in their position of power, and they figured like they could just have at it, and we wasn't going for and it would go left. We had people
L.A.R, you are borging a little bit, or it's like are you maybe you got far from the router or something?
We used to go to basketball and be playing against grown men, and you had to work to get on the court with the grown men. We used to play football with damn near adults. You know what I'm saying? Like it was. We used to fight with damn near adults. Like it was a normal thing for a kid to always be competing with older people. It was always that has stopped in American society, period. But in our society in particular, it stopped. So as that slowed down, when they talk about these quote unquote YNs, I look at them as kids who came from a family who came from poverty and harsh environments, but they're not that. So now they're trying to be that in a suburban environment, and they don't realize, like, you might keep that where you at, because you might deal with somebody, like I'm older, you know what I'm saying? My back might spasm up. I can't be messing with everybody, but like people my age, we still fighting out here. You know what I'm saying? We still out here active. Like if we got to get active, it's not a big deal. So, and that comes in every facet, even intellectually. It comes like we still fighting the quote unquote stereotypes. Now, other groups of people they don't have that much respect for that, and there comes a point where it's like, okay, you ain't gotta respect it, but you gonna the term is, you don't have to respect me, but you better not disrespect me.
Right.
That's where we're at. So it's just
But on that Pan-African thing, I'll say what we were thinking in the 80s is we were looking at how we were constructed via the church, the school system, the images we saw on TV, and we saw that we're never going to be able to control those things in this country. So the Nation of Islam, of course, they had their idea of separation. I couldn't get into that. I'm like, white people ain't gonna give you no land for you to set up some counterculture within their culture. That ain't gonna happen. So a lot of us Pan-Africans, we never went to know the Nation of Islam idea. It didn't seem rational.
Feasible.
Okay. And so we're like, either shit or get off the pot. So now so a lot of people get Pan-Africanism confused with back to Africa.
I'm gonna say this.
Go ahead. I'm gonna finish.
I thought about this with you. I got you. When you talk about the
Go ahead.
One of the issues I would say currently with Pan-Africanism is that using the 80s and the 90s, let's just say the crack era, right? Using that as an example, people didn't realize until the last probably 10 years that some of them black people wasn't black Americans. Now,
What do you mean? For example, what do you mean?
that were wilding out and giving us the black eye of us being the drug dealers and gangsters and shooting up everything. People didn't realize until maybe 10 years ago that all of those black people weren't black Americans.
Okay, you mean they weren't ADOS FBA?
Right.
They were black Americans, but they weren't.
No. They were black then, but we didn't know that they weren't black Americans until because you remember back at all of that stuff, people had nicknames and street names and not full names.
Mhm.
So people didn't know people's full names until years later.
Well, tied into what I said in the 60s, nobody else was here. A lot of these people from other countries, including the Africans and black folks from other countries, they weren't here in no large numbers in the 60s. But they started to come here and they became, what would you call that, naturalized citizens. But they weren't ADOS FBA. So yeah, a lot of their culture and they fed right in. I mean, America is a jungle.
Right, but I remember in the 80s and the 90s in particular, but 80s, I remember Hispanics were shooting up airports and shit, just shooting up everywhere. But it wasn't. But Hispanics were never looked at as super criminals. It was always black people. Because I remember it was the you had the Colombians, you had the Peruvians, you had the Panamanians. You know what I'm saying? The whole the Mexicans after a while. The whole Cubans, you had that whole drug culture thing. That was pretty much a Hispanic thing that
because
black people got into.
The countries they came from, they were already weaponized. Right. They had high power rifles and stuff like that in their community. That's new for us. It didn't come to us till the 80s.
No. I'm talking about just the actions. Like and even with the Jamaicans,
I'm saying they acted like that at home, and then when they came here, they continued to act that way.
Right,
correct.
But a lot of people don't realize in the 80s and the 90s, it was a lot of cartels and mafia stuff going on. Mafia stuff was predominantly the 80s when it was ending, because that's what Giuliani really got in office in New York about, because he was supposed to break up the mob per se. And then in the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of those Hispanic gangs. Thus, when I'm talking about with the other black folks, that's when you had the Jamaicans and the Haitians.
You muted out, brother.
L.A.R.
You muted out for about a minute. So go back a minute. You I don't know if you far from your router or whatever. So you just went silent for about a minute.
Oh shit! Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. What I was saying, basically,
go back about a minute. Yeah.
Okay. What I was saying was, use New York as a reference. New York in the 80s and 90s had that big drug culture, and a lot of those people didn't know that everybody looked black, but everybody wasn't black from here. And that went from Florida all the way up. Now the West Coast was a little bit different because there was a lot of black folks. Period. And then you got the Belizeans and all that other stuff later. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So people didn't realize until years from now, it's like, oh, your boy Dominican. Oh, that dude was Puerto Rican. Oh, that dude is because. I remember one of them, Superboy 223 used to.
We don't hear you, brother. We don't hear you.
America.
We didn't hear you. We didn't hear you.
Now,
you muted out again.
My bad. You got it.
Let me see if I understand you. So you saying, I'm gonna connect to something you said earlier. Like in New York, yeah, they always had those different communities for those different groups. You know, they never like seem. Everybody maintains who they are. You know, the Dominicans stayed with each other. You know, New York is like that. You know, but
Yes.
they still mix together, but they still got their own space, their own areas, and you know whose neighborhood you in.
Yes, but the vast majority of America and Black America didn't know. That was a new, like New York, from New York to, let's just say, the DMV,
Right.
that area they might have known,
Correct.
but you know, Alabama didn't know that, Tennessee didn't know that,
Correct.
Ohio didn't know that,
Correct.
Chicago didn't know it. You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah,
that.
like we said earlier, there are many different Black experiences in America,
Right. So
and some places like New York and Florida, and maybe I don't know, maybe California, maybe you could throw that in there. They're so damn unique, or maybe even in New Orleans, there's certain places
no,
like that are just different. They're their own unique thing.
that was the thing. That was the thing. Like, we didn't know. We knew everybody was different, but we did not know that we were taking the brunt of the negativity for other people. We knew we were taking negativity for our people. We didn't know we were taking negativity from other people. You get what I'm
You know
saying?
why that is, right? That's back to what I was saying. That's that racist class-based hierarchy. That white man has to separate you. We're the threat to him.
Well,
Okay? That's
yeah,
why coming up when in the 70s, when we had affirmative action and all that, white folks was playing some serious games on us.
yeah,
It was them that would hire a foreign national Black. Because when the Civil Rights Act of 1964 created the EEOC, there was no EEOC agency prior to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It created it, and the creation of the EEOC required came with a policy or a mandate that companies are be above a certain size. I forgot how many employees. Once you have X number of employees, I don't know if it was 50 or 150. It was some number like that. If you had more than that number, you had to make reportings to the EEOC how many Black folks you had working there. And so that data became the basis for our activists, our Jesse Jacksons and others, to file lawsuits. And that's how you end up getting Black folks into jobs, because we would just go protest places just because they don't have enough Negroes in there, just for that reason.
let me say this, and I forgot about this but I'm gonna start shutting down on a few. But here's the thing: I think people don't realize black people in major cities, starting with Jackson, Mayor Jackson in Atlanta, Andrew Jackson. I think he was mayor at the time. I forget now. They
Mayor
were
Jackson.
they were Black people. I would say from the '70s started petitioning the cities to have to be equitable in contracts. That's
Correct.
why it was a lot of Black businesses in the '60s and '70s, but more so the '70s, because the '70s had a lot of government contracts. That's when you saw
And that's
the
what
garbage men.
that's what the takedown of Marion Barry was
Right.
about. It wasn't about drugs. It was about him giving contracts to Black folks. And they said, "Why are you giving contracts to all your friends?" And Marion Barry said, "Who am I supposed to give them to? My enemies?" But go ahead.
And people forget part of let's just say white America, embracing other Blacks from out of America. They didn't want to deal with us doing that, because y'all don't realize that's why in Atlanta it's called Hartsfield Jackson, the airport. Y'all don't realize in New Orleans, DC, it wasn't Chicago. Carolina had that similar thing. There were a lot of Black bus lines, garbage men lines, taxi lines, just regular businesses, cleanup crews, construction crews, electrician crews, plumber crews. There was all kinds of black businesses because of the civil rights movement forced people to contractually, if we 10% of the population, we need 10% of the contracts.
Right.
And when these other groups of black people came here, they haven't figured that out to this day.
No, America courted a lot of those white groups, and then there was pressure from blacks here for them to allow blacks from Africa and other parts of the world to come here as easily as they allow white people to come here. That's what happened.
Yeah, but we didn't have a problem with that. We didn't know that in essence, white people were gonna since everybody's black now or African American, that means the black American from America is probably gonna get tossed out for the black American from the Caribbean or Africa.
And I'm saying that this is my issue with the ADOS FBA versus Pan-African dispute, that we blame the Africans for that. No, that was white folks playing games.
No. I get that. I think at this juncture, it's not blaming them for that. It's the arrogance of, oh, y'all better than us because they put y'all in that position. That's what you're trying to say? Okay,
a lot of them do get arrogance.
That's what to me. That's what it is now. It's that arrogance of, oh, we're better because, like, even when people say it now, we get educations. We look at people like, okay, so y'all going to school? Okay, so we're not even trying to. We're tired of even telling people, okay, y'all go and get educations, but y'all ain't talking about the student loan debt, are y'all?
No, I guess maybe it doesn't. I just hear them as ignorant when they act like that, because I know that not only did we set them up to have the success that they have, I know that, and I also know that just on an everyday basis, the success they have even today it rests on us, because when they're working in these environments, there's still more of us there than them, and they need us. They're not surviving out here in this racist America without us.
I mean,
they put that stuff to the side when it get to be about the money and white folks come. They know.
Yeah,
when it's time for them to fold into our numbers and be black, they know how to do that.
And that's the issue. Now that's the part of the delineation. You're like, people don't want nobody to fold back into being black. If you are something else, you're gonna be that.
Delineation is not, to borrow a Claude Anderson phrase, that's an inappropriate response. Okay. That will get educated out. Okay.
I don't think it's an inappropriate response. I just think at this juncture, at least people need to know who's who.
Oh, definitely tell them. Definitely set them straight and give them a history lesson, definitely. But to then further say we're going to delineate when we only 13% of the population in this country, that's like dismantling why we wanted them here. We're still trying to battle against the cracker who's playing games with immigration numbers. We can't get past that.
That's true. But the issue is you don't know who. People come here for their own issue, for their own thing. Like, let me say it this way.
Well, what other reason should they come here for?
No. This is what I mean. I get it. I get it. You're right. But here's the thing with all immigrants in America. I ain't even going. But there are differences in each groups.
Right.
Africans have an issue in America because, just like Hispanics, they're sending money, they're working in America, sending money back home. And other Asians have this issue too, sending money back home to one day retire and go home and find out they got played. That ain't, we don't have anything to do with that issue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
and that's the point where they learn here and at home that the stuff they were saying about us is bullshit, because they come over here, get caught in the same capitalism trap as us, and then their family realizes, wait a minute, you making money in America, but everything costs a whole lot more. That's when it's not until they hit their head on that truth do they realize, wait a minute, we were wrong about the Black American. That's when they get it.
No, but like I know people like you're African, you're from, let's just say, let's just say you're from Senegal, right? You're working here and you're like, look, I'm hustling in America, I'm competing, I'm better than these black folks, blah, 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 because I'm doing these things. But you're sending money back to Senegal because your family is depending on you and saying, okay, when you get done in the next 10, 20 years, we're doing this, that, and the third. We're building for you. We're building off of your money. Then
and in the beginning, when they sending stuff back home, they lying about how well they living over here.
No, it ain't even how they live it. It's the fact that they know even if I'm not living well, I'm gonna go back home and live well when I'm done.
Right.
But then they start finding out that, oh, I'm getting played, and I just wasted tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, and I could have just set myself up. And I've been in competition. I've been fighting for my own people while my own people been playing me, and I've been in competition with these other black people because I'm fighting for my group. And it's like, yo, we don't have anything to do with that. Same thing with Hispanics. Hispanics send money back to Mexico and Central, Panama, Central and South America, Honduras. They have that same issue at times. You know what I'm saying? Because people forget about that. And that happens to Africans in the UK. That happens to Caribbean black folks here too, because they have. I've heard them stories. I got a home in Jamaica, St. Kitts, and Trinidad. But after a while, people give up going back because they're like, yo, I went to visit and I just realized I wasted 5 years in my house, 5 years of my life, doing the right thing for my people and getting screwed.
When you say break down, when you say getting screwed, when you say getting played, getting screwed, because what the dimensions of that you mean? Because there's several ways you could possibly mean that. I just want to understand.
It's the same thing as you as a Pan-Africanist say going to Ghana and buying a plot of land and just find out that ain't no plot of land. They go.
So they go home and they get tricked when they get home.
Yes, it's the same issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's the same. So part of the Pan, like. The things we try to tell them about going on here, they're not really completely concerned about because there's really no allegiance to America because they're expecting to go back home at the end of the day. So they wind up wasting a lot of time and money when it's time to go back home. Like, I ain't got nothing up back home.
Now, this is where I'm assessing people. I applaud them for not having allegiance to America. We need to have less allegiance to America. America is to be exploited. America is a hoe to be pimped. That's what she is. This bitch exists to be exploited. Everybody in the world, and I'm talking about white folk, they come to America. Jews, everybody, you name it. They come to America. They do not lose the identity of who they are. They come here with a single-minded purpose. And that purpose is to get money and leave. Mm-hmm. We gotta adopt that same mindset.
Here's the irony of that. We're probably one of the few groups that didn't forget who we were because we had to make who we were here. All those other groups actually forget who they are.
Right. They get seduced by the money, get turned out.
A lot of these people, because of when they say, and I agree with you, America is looked at as a land of exploitation, not necessarily opportunity. So when people come around here, they want to pimp the country and wind up becoming the hoe.
Right.
That's how, like when people come here from Spanish-speaking countries, guess what? Two generations, you ain't the Spanish-speaking people no more. Italians don't speak Italian no more. Greeks don't speak their language anymore. Polish, with the Polish, they don't speak Czechoslovakians, they don't speak their language anymore. The Asians, they don't know Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, they don't know that anymore. The Germans, they don't know that anymore.
The people I've seen pimp the game the best. There were some the cleaning crew at my employer. It was like, I guess Guatemalan and whatever, mm-hmm. And I'm like, every damn 6 months, I would see some different ones,
Right.
but they all come from the same little ethnic group. I'm like, so I got, you know how black folks are. We gonna talk to everybody. We ain't like white folks. We don't, no matter if you the cook, the janitor, or whatever, we gonna treat you like a human being, and we gonna talk to you. And then they know that they recognize that about us, so you're gonna learn something about them. So what I learned, so I asked him, I said, what? You went away and you for 6 months you came back. What's going on? They said, oh man, I got a house in my country. I come here for 6 months. I make enough money to live a whole year. And then I come back and that guy that you saw working here, that's my cousin. That's how they do it.
You got to remember the Central and South Americans, predominantly the Central ones though. You know, Mexico all the way to whatever, I forgot, maybe Belize.
Right.
They're the only ones that really do that, because all the other groups, they're not close enough to home to find that out the hard. That's why you see a lot of Hispanics do that now, because they
Africans come here and get turned out. Okay, they get the money and they, like you said, they get assimilated into America. They never want to go back home. That's the problem.
They all go back home. The Hispanics go back home, but because they're so close to home.
No, I'm talking about the Africans.
I'm talking about them too. Africans go back home and realize, oh, you're not doing right with the money. Because I was in Africa talking to Africans about Africans going to the UAE, to Dubai, working in Dubai and sending money back, and then coming back and having nothing because the family wasted the money. You get what I'm saying?
Right. I'm with you. I guess I'm talking about a different thing. But that's why you hear Africans saying, why y'all want to come here? We want to go there. They need to understand why we want to go there, because we understand the game. That this maze in America, this matrix in America, you never get out of this slaveocracy. You never get out of it. You have to come and extract money from America, live as conservatively as possible, save your money, go to someplace else, buy some land that don't have no property tax situation where you can't get tricked out of your property. Go someplace. If you go back 10 years ago, there were many places you could buy a house, get a whole house built, a little McMansion for $25,000. In America, you got a decent job, you come up on $25,000 real easy. Shit, you just go. All you gotta do is get into a house share situation and stop feeling like you got to own everything. All we gotta do is stop this shaming each other from living in the parents' basement. That's what we need to do.
But you gotta remember, the difference between the Caribbean and Africa is you're really not allowed to buy land there like that.
Say it again.
I was like, the difference between America and the Caribbean and Africa is people could come from those countries here and buy land. We can't really go there and buy land like that. It ain't the same.
It's not as easy. You can do it, but it's not as easy for several reasons.
That's my point.
For one, ain't a citizen. Two, they got scams involved in real estate that we ain't gonna understand. You're right. It's levels and layers to it.
Because it's the same. Like the Caribbean, it's easier because a lot of white people go to the Caribbean to wash their money. So they've been buying land there for a minute, but it still ain't easy there either, because they have those stipulations that it can go back to the country after a certain amount of time, which it is what it is. But I say more in Africa, they could just yank it from you in a couple of weeks. You don't even know. You know what I mean?
Now, again, we're being general because we're talking about 54 countries, so it's different in certain places. It's difficult. It's not as straight up as it is here. But the spirit of Pan-Africanism says, I or we cannot reconcile ourselves to the fact that we're pledging to keep working to make things work with this cracker for eternity. Fuck that. Okay, that's the really bottom line. So either we're gonna be here in America because it's the best we can do for now, we can't leave, but we're gonna move differently while we're here. Okay,
That's the thing.
we're gonna click up as best we can. We're gonna have a cultural exchange with these black folks from other parts of the world, which is an economic exchange. When you exchange culture, you exchange economics, and we're gonna both help each other come up and make a marketplace. So we're that much less dependent on white folks. That's all it is.
The thing about us is black FBA, Black Americans, because we know this country inside and out, and other people don't. We tried to warn people that this is a burning ship going down a long time ago. But I can't lie and tell people America on paper it looks better than other countries in certain places. But the truth is, the places that look poor are actually better because, you're not as in debt as America. And other groups, other people don't get that, other countries, we as Black Americans get like, if this country goes down financially, is it going to affect Black folks in America? Yes. Are we going to be the hardest ones hit? Absolutely not, because they didn't never want us to get no money, no way.
What America has, I got to balance, I got my criticisms of America, but there are a lot of things that work here. Okay. There are a lot of things that work. One, for all the talk, people don't like the welfare state. That's progress. Okay, to have that amount of socialism in here to give a safety net for people, that's a reason why America is a place to come pimp this economy to get some money. Okay, you call the police, they show up. Okay, the infrastructure works. You don't have rolling blackouts. Okay, it's a lot of, we have for the most part, a peaceful exchange of power when we have presidential elections. There is a lot of stability here. America has one of the, probably, I don't know this, I'll say one of the largest middle classes on earth. Most places on earth have rich and poor.
Right.
So that shrinking middle class in America, as we talk about the 1-2% or whatever, that own most of everything, we're trying to keep the middle class growing. That growing middle class or big middle class, that is the opportunity that everybody wants.
But that's the thing,
and that doesn't exist most places in the world.
Our middle class ain't a middle class though, for the most part.
On the American scale,
right? Our middle class is basically suburban good looks with high end debt.
Correct, because we're caught up in when you that whole, what's that word, conspicuous consumption.
Yeah, like
we're caught up.
It's not even
part of American culture.
At this point, it's not even a consumption, because at this point it's just a rising cost of America. Yeah,
right.
Look,
this particular expression of capitalism pushes you to go in debt. The credit system makes you do that. Now, in a lot of these quote unquote underdeveloped countries, there's no credit system. It's a cash system. So if you don't have no money in a cash system, you SOL. In America, you can come make cash because you're in the middle class and get a line of credit because you got some credit cards now, and then you can take that, go to another country, and you can start, not all at once, go several times over several years, and you can figure out a foundation that you can establish for yourself while still having that U.S. line of credit. So you in another country with more cash, more education, and a line of credit. So that's the kind of Pan-Africanism I'm on that.
Yeah, but that's what, in that scenario, now we're at a stage where cars are too expensive. The car insurance is too expensive. You got to have health insurance. That's mandatory now. That's going up 10%.
Right.
The rent is constantly rising, even though, no matter where you go, even no matter if the place is old or new, you get what I'm saying? The gas somehow is staying relatively even, when usually it would be high, going down at this point. but the food keeps going up, and the worst part about it is that's before you get to frivolous consumption.
But don't let me
You know,
forget. I want to tell you something about the healthcare thing, a hustle that's going on in America. Go ahead and finish your point, though.
no, you got it.
In my, I led a union movement, and so when you sidebar, we cannot afford to be anti-union. Okay, Black folks getting involved in unions was a big part of us growing economically as well. Anyway, when you're in a union, you have more. There are laws that you have a higher status under the law in America. If you're not in a union, you are what's called an at-will worker. Look that up. That makes basically at-will worker means you can be fired for no reason at all, any reason or no reason.
But here's the thing: Black people weren't necessarily anti-union. White people were anti-Black people being in unions.
That's true, but today there's people caught up in a brand of conservatism where they did because white folks is representing the rich whites are anti-union. Black folks who want to be conservative now anti-union. They ain't thought that shit all the way out. Okay, but my point is, when you join a union, there are rights that you have, powers that you have when you don't have union status. So one of those rights was the company had to negotiate with us as with respect to healthcare. Actually, they have to negotiate with you on all aspects of the employee-employer relationship. And so healthcare is part of it. And so the company already had two other unions. And so my group was the third union. And so us gaining union status allowed us to become a part of the health benefits task force. That's where you talking to the company leadership, and they bring in their insurance person, and they after months of being in this meeting and all the gobbledygook language that they wouldn't make it plain. I had an aha moment in the middle of one of these meetings, and they talking about the fee structure, why healthcare costs what it does, and I put that shit together. It took me about 2 or 3 months. I said, y'all got a subsidy program going. So basically what they do in a lot of these companies, you got a PPO. That's the Cadillac doctor. Okay. That's the doctor that went to the finest school and he costs more. Okay. Then you got the HMO. Okay. HMO, that's like Kaiser and all. That's what most of America, some kind of HMO. Okay. HMO costs less. Okay. The higher paid workers in the company are getting the Cadillac health plan. Costs probably twice the amount.
For sure. I know because I got it.
But so you got the Cadillac plan?
Yeah.
My man. Good. There you go.
Look. Watch this. I can tell you, for the record, folks. This is also the part of the game. If you're at a job and they give you a raise, you happy because you got your raise. But what you didn't know was they're gonna hike up one of these insurances, so you're gonna basically have the same amount of money you did before the raise.
Yes.
Because the insurance is gonna eat up your new income.
Yes. Now, let me go back to the subsidy. I'm about done. What this company was doing, it was pushing like 90% of their workers into Kaiser. And they had this system called flex credits, where they take the part of your salary that goes to your benefits and they give you credits and they give you some choices of some plans you can pick. But all the amount of money or in terms of flex credits that they gave you don't allow you to buy the Cadillac plan. Okay, because you don't have enough credits. So only the higher paid workers, I mean, you can buy the Cadillac plan, but you would have to contribute out of pocket. So what they did was they marked up the bargain Kaiser plan. They added a surcharge onto it. They hid it in this flex credit system. You would never know that they hid this shit unless you were in a union in that benefits task force where by law they have to show you the numbers. So we're in the exercise now, right? Seeing the numbers, and I'm like, for 3 months this shit ain't adding up. And I figured out, oh, you added a surcharge to us so that you can make the Cadillac plan cheaper for your high paid employees.
No. The Cadillac program did not get cheaper for the employees.
Whoa. They charged everybody that was in the bargain Kaiser plan more than the Kaiser plan actually costs.
Right.
And they took that money and shifted it over to the Cigna plan that was more expensive, and that brought down the cost. Now, Cigna was still expensive as hell, even after robbing the people to bring the price down. It was not affordable even then, but I'm still saying you still took money from the poor to pay the rich. That's the point. And I'm saying that's happening in a lot of companies, and so it
absolutely,
the scamming is real here.
So what you missing about that is that's if you're talking about you as one person.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about, again, I'm in a union.
No. I know what you're saying. What I mean is, you know how they do the health insurance plans where it's you got a health insurance plan as a person. Then you can have you plus one. Then you can have a family plan. So basically,
different levels, whether it's individual or family.
So if it's you by yourself, they raise the price on the people who use the other plan, the HMO plan, and you got a better deal on your PPO, quote unquote. But
I hear what you're saying. That in my particular case, everyone that was in the Kaiser plan was paying more than they should have paid, whether they were an individual or a family plan. It doesn't matter. They created a subsidy pot so that they can steer money to the expensive plan to make it cheaper for the people who was making 4 times the amount. So you got people in my department making about $100,000 a year, and they stealing from us to make it cheaper for the people who make 500.
I know what you're talking about. So what winds up happening is that the highest, when you have a family plan, the family plan, the people who had, let's say the Cadillac family plan, they got a lot of use out of it. Because basically, if you got the highest plan, I would say you paying probably $8,000-$9,000 a year for health insurance.
Right, something crazy, right?
Yeah. So, and the thing about it is, the people on the highest plan actually using it, because the bet is, if it's just you, what's the most that can happen to you? But if it's you and your kid, or you and your wife, because the parents go, you can have a kid, one of your kids, or your kids on until they 26. So the people with the family plan, they had to raise that sucker up because they want people to get them kids off the plan.
I hear you, but when I figured it out that it was a subsidy and I charged them with that in that meeting, they did not deny it. The whole conversation temperature changed. I said, so now I see what's going on. And they tried to justify it, saying, well, in order for us to attract these workers at this level, we need to offer them this health plan. I'm like, no, you need to fund the plan more.
It's a gamble.
Get the money from someplace else. Don't take it from me. And we down here at $100,000. We can't afford to have all them kids like that. So why I have to pay for him to have 3 kids and we trying to just pay for one or none?
Like people don't know, it's a gamble. If you pay the highest plan and nothing happens, you feel like you wasted your money. If you get the low, the average plan. If you get the average plan, if something serious happened, they're not gonna cover half that stuff. You got to come out of pocket.
Right. But they could have, if money was an issue for them, basically, if they weren't as rich as that $500,000 people weren't as rich as they thought they were, or they just greedy. If they sitting up here complaining about the price, if the money is an issue for you, get your ass in Kaiser like most of the company. It would be cheaper. But no, they think that they deserve the higher pay. Okay, fine, then you pay for it then.
So
I'm saying that these are like the scams and levels to living in this brand capitalism, and it's many situations like this that eat away at your purchasing power of that high salary. On paper, it looks high, but everybody treading water in America, and they in debt.
I'm gonna say another hustle, then I'm gonna get out of here. Using that same thing. What y'all didn't realize is if you marry couples, if they both are working, if one has a better healthcare plan, one person had the family on the healthcare plan.
Correct.
The other person got a kickback from their corporation because they weren't on their plan at the end of the year.
And tie that thought into what I was saying, because that person who wasn't using the company's their health benefit plan, they were due money because there's a difference between salary and compensation. You learn this when you're in a union. Compensation is the whole package what you get from the company. You get a salary, you get health insurance, you get life insurance. You might have some disability insurance, you get dental insurance. The value of all of that is called, you get sick days, vacation, annual leave pay, bereavement pay. Every penny you get from the company is called compensation. And in a contract negotiation, you looking at every aspect of compensation down to the penny to make sure that your people get what they're due. And so when you go on your wife's policy and don't use that part of your compensation, you're due to be paid for that. You should get some extra money in your check for that because you didn't get your full compensation.
We're going to stop it there because I got to go to work in the morning. I got to go to bed. I appreciate you coming up here, man.
All right, brother.
Peace. Peace, everybody. We out and play the outro.
It looks like a job for Superman.
I do this, bro.
Spoken from the lips of the young or the old, there are many.
Yeah, gotta put it all in.
And they are Superman.
All the way. I guess I'm taking off the cake through the glasses in the trash. Being super is great, saving y'all is such a drag. Even God took a break, me I ain't coming back. I got one life to live, if you don't like it, that's your ass. Cause nobody saved me, plus when I walk I'm just a peon. I could use somebody just like I'm the kings of neon. This world is cold as ice, mixed with salt, mixed with freon. They got me pissed off, but that's better than being peed on. For eons, human beings took kindness for weakness. When you constipated, you start to appreciate shit. Put before you life and death, and you just gotta choose. The kryptonite life means you should follow the rules. If your credit's messed up or your bills ain't paid, then it's getting disconnected. Can't nobody say the day. And I can fly, leave a building in a single bound, but I can't stand fair weather friends, and I just fly around. My super friends is Justice League. Only folk I kick it with. Kill Lex Luthor, so what? We had to finish it. Kids play games and adults play for keeps. And me, I play to win, but I ain't playing in these streets. And life is not a joke. Then again, it ain't this serious. Superman can say the day, but God can say the Superman. Saga of the kryptonite, life just ended. You enjoy listening? Man, I'll finish it. Lois, come holler at me. I got an ice couch. Thank you for coming out, listening. I knew you would like it because we made it. I'm so frigid and so fly.